The minerals I speak of were white pebbles that you wouldn't actually see, but they would come into contact with your tooth at some point when you had just relaxed and you're enjoying munching your rice away, and then kak. Kak is a sound. Kak is a sound that yes. Anyway.
Yeah. Good memories that you had there. Were you ever in boarding school?
I did not go to boarding school, no.
I see now.
Experience missed.
See now.
What?
You don't know what you missed.
Huh.
It reminds me of a Christian song. You don't know what you're missing. I'm not going to try and sing. That one I never do.
Come on, CT.
Yes.
Oblige me this morning.
Nope,
For once.
Nope.
Out of 365
I
days,
am aware.
one day.
I am aware that
All right, Pulakak Franklin, just say the words.
you don't know what you're
She's
missing.
going to sing.
You don't know what you're missing until you've met the Lord. You don't know what you're missing.
You got to
That
record this, John. John! CT sang. Wow. It's going to be a good day.
You don't know what you're missing
No, again.
until you've met the Lord.
Yes, that one. Now, it's not every day you have an archbishop.
Yep. Today, we will be having an archbishop speaking to us. Actually, it's the second time we're having an archbishop on the show. In not so long.
Yes, we did.
We had an archbishop from the Mombasa Archdiocese.
Yeah.
Today, we'll be having the archbishop, the head of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit. He'll be speaking to us, and we will be singing that prayer that is our national anthem, the first verse.
We will. Okay. At what time during the show?
At 8 o'clock. What's the first stanza of the national anthem? Not that you're in the singing mood today.
Oh God of all creation.
No, sing
Right.
it.
You know, one shouldn't push
Sing
one's
the
luck.
national anthem. It's an anthem. You sing it.
You know,
CT.
my voice didn't give way when I tried the other one. This one, man, I do not wish to treat our audiences to a cacophony where
Hey.
I am sort of like,
Oh
this.
God of all creation.
Bless this our land and nation. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Justice be our shield and defender.
Plenty be found within our... You already said the justice bit.
It's deliberate. Kwani, it's me that justice bit really
That's why you already
that
just
thing
started.
touches me.
All right. So we'll actually be speaking to the Archbishop on that particular line. Justice be our shield and defender.
Today you didn't ask us how we are.
Oh, it's because City's already told us he woke up with rice in his mind. What did you have in mind when you woke up?
All
You
right.
see?
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
CT.
morning,
Good
Ndu.
morning,
What
Eric.
is your relationship with rice?
What is your memory of rice?
Every Sunday, Mum used to cook jollof rice with plantain and peppered beef on Sunday.
Jollof is who again?
Jollof is a special kind of rice. The Nigerians cook it the best.
Okay. Is it the one where you see the grains separated, or is it the one where the
No,
grain...
it's not the mishmash rice.
Oh, the rice is
The
just...
rice where they count 1-1.
Okay.
Sweet past anything where you don't taste before. Almost strong thing.
And it's a special one. So you had it on Sundays.
Sunday was jollof rice day, or at least rice. But
So what did you have for Christmas? I mean, if you had the special meal every Sunday.
then Christmas was a mix of very many things.
Chicken?
Of course, chicken had to be there.
Soda?
Yes, no,
Bread?
no bread.
When you think people eat bread every day?
Did you have chapati?
Chapati is a Kenyan thing.
You see now,
You guys don't
you've
eat chapati?
never had
You don't
Christmas.
have chapati in Nigeria.
Actually, Eric
I
does
heard
have
about. Actually, it's an Asian dish as well. So I got to know about chapati through some of my Indian friends. But their chapati is sweet. It's got sugar in it.
It does, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's more of a sweet snack,
Okay.
like a dessert food as opposed to like a main meal food.
Okay, so, but otherwise, how are you?
And then there's roti. Sorry, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're fine.
Otherwise, my otherwise is very fine, thank you.
Okay, shall we get into the show? Also, so in addition to speaking to the Archbishop, we'll also be speaking to a governor, because governors have decided, kama ni mbaya, mbaya.
Yep.
And we want to understand that. But let's begin where we always begin, and this is tracking COVID-19 in the country and in the world. Where do you want to start Morocco and then go abroad, or you want to go further wide and then come home?
Well, let's look at the day when the world cases have crossed the 30 million case mark. So now global numbers at 30 million, 30,911. 945,000 deaths, inching closer and closer. I've been using that word a lot this week, haven't I? Inching.
But no, inching is a good word, meaning it's crawling slowly, decisively.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a bad word. All right, so then 21,798,106 cases having recovered from COVID-19 around the world. The US also 6,828,301, very close to 7 million cases, and well over now 200,000 deaths. India now, when we spoke yesterday, India was at 4,800,000 and so thousand. Today, 5,115,893 cases in India, with 83,000 deaths. Brazil at 4.4 million, Russia at 1 million, and now let's look at those Central American countries, Peru, Colombia, Mexico, all with increased numbers of cases. 4,444 new cases in Mexico in the last 8 hours. South Africa seems to be holding steady at 653,444 cases. They're still testing rapidly, now with almost 4 million tests having been carried out in the country. 15,705 deaths in South Africa. Okay.
Total number of deaths in the world?
Total number of deaths in the world is at 945,051.
Again?
945,051 deaths globally.
When you look at some of the pestilences, the pandemics that the world has encountered, there's one which comes to mind. And it comes to mind because it existed, but it has been eradicated. It's called smallpox. In the 20th century alone, it killed over 300 million people. And the thing is, it had coexisted with human beings for something like 30 sorry. And the thing is, it didn't choose. It killed kings, it killed paupers, anyone. And a third of the people who were infected by smallpox were guaranteed to die. But it was eradicated. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because even with COVID, when you look at the numbers are not as daunting as some of the pestilences that we've encountered.
Yeah.
And given time and given the era in which we live, it's just a question of time. It will be overcome. I cannot mention the date. I cannot even venture to think of when. But because of the advances in medical science, we've understood how not to get the disease, not just how to treat it, how not to get it.
Yeah.
And the how not to get it is the point at which our thinking must converge. How not to get it, not how to treat it. Yes. I thought I should just mention that.
That's interesting.
Did you talk about Kenya?
No, let's look at Kenya. 92 new cases yesterday, taking the national tally to 36,393.
Out of how many samples tested yesterday?
2,985 samples taken in the last 24 hours, and they got 92 having tested positive. So it's an observatory trend is what it's being called, reporting low infections and higher recoveries. So still knowing that 165 patients having been discharged, raising total recoveries in the country to 23,353. And unfortunately, 3 deaths yesterday, bringing the death toll to 637. Now, Dr. Mwangangi from the ministry yesterday said that it's crucial to ensure any future pandemic can be mitigated. And they're currently working with state agencies as they put reforms in NHIF, and also noting that UHC is crucial under the Big Four agenda.
Okay.
She says if there's anything this pandemic has taught us, it is that health emergencies will keep coming up.
Okay, is that the only thing she believes it has taught us?
Among
many other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Or rather, if there is anything that it has taught us.
If the one thing which stands out among the things it has taught us, it has these conditions will recur.
Yeah.
But in our country, given the state of the healthcare system, again, I must bring in this particular aspect of the debate. COVID didn't make our healthcare system better; it challenged it. But our healthcare system did not need COVID for it to be limping.
No.
It's been limping for the longest possible time.
True.
Yep.
Yes. So it begs the question: was it really prudent to have devolved it? But of course, that is a discussion for another day.
Even without devolving it, I mean, whoever is handling it is look at COVID. COVID has been dealt with at a national level, right?
Yes.
And it was a national discussion being spearheaded at a national level. And if you look at our healthcare system and how our healthcare system was equipped to deal with COVID, you're still left wondering, so does it really matter who's at the helm? Who's handling it? Because as you look at it, our healthcare system in January before COVID came to Kenya and our healthcare system in September, when we've had COVID for over 6 months, is there any major difference?
No, actually, no. COVID has simply now unearthed and exposed the underbelly of our healthcare system in its worst possible light.
Yeah.
Because even when the national government has labored to ensure that they provide the county systems, the county governments, with money to fight COVID, we know how that has gone.
Yeah, we know. And we also know there were words that were being uttered by national leadership on what they are doing. But then we find out that they were actually not doing.
No, far from it. Far, really far. This one is a distant far from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So actually what I'm trying to say is the way the government, the 48 governments have handled COVID and our healthcare system has not come out any better. You'd have expected that because of COVID, a lot of attention would have been given to our healthcare system, at least to move it a notch higher. Something has happened. Well, yeah, you can say there are some counties that went and picked beds from schools and brought them to hospital. Those beds are heading back. So it's not like you've increased the capacity of the healthcare system. It's not like there's nothing much that has happened in terms of improving our healthcare system as a result of COVID. Well, you could say one of the things that has emerged out of this COVID pandemic is at least there was movement of the needle in our healthcare system. Can we really say that there was?
Unfortunately.
Really?
No.
Can we say that we have now, before COVID, our ICU capacity was here and it has really moved to here?
No.
Can we say that, equipment, labs, testing capacity was here? Can we say that the emergency services and how we handle emergency services, telemedicine, none of that can really be pointed out and said, this is one positive thing that has emerged out of COVID-19?
The thing about COVID, if we're talking about something positive, it's inadvertent, but it's the closest I can get to positive. It's realizing that we are on our own.
I was waiting for some depth and, some philosophy tied to this.
It doesn't get deeper than that, my friend.
Excuse, you'll make me speak French. Excusez-moi.
Today is a day for firsts, Titi.
Excuse me. Is that what it means? Okay. See, I'm doing well today.
You are doing very well.
Let's take a break at 16 minutes after 6. This is the Situation Room. The live stream is up, and we are glad that you are already on the live stream. Welcome to the Situation Room. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. We're going to look at the weather and then the headlines shortly.
...24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes alive while making homeschooling an achievable reality together, effectively. Tutor Soma Online. Log in to success. A partnership between the Standard Group and the Oxford University Press East Africa.
Hey mom, let's go shopping.
No, honey, I have a virtual meeting with Auntie Mary and my friends, eh?
But my cereals are over.
Get me my phone.
And the car keys?
No, see, I will just order on Jambo Pay Market.
Simplify your shopping experience. Log on to Jambo Pay Market and get all your shopping delivered to your doorstep.
All right, this morning
Now go and
we are
play.
looking
Your
at
cereal-
cloudy conditions, partly cloudy. So in Nairobi at 13 degrees. It'll go to a high of 27 today and lows then of 13. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 14 degrees, going to highs of 25, coming to down lows of 12. 12 degrees and clear skies in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 11. And Eldoret is clear this morning at 12. There's going to be a chance of rain later with highs of 22 and lows of 11. 19 degrees and clear skies in Kisumu this morning. We will see highs of 29 and lows of 18. Clear skies in Kakamega at 16 degrees. It'll change later, however. Highs of 27 and lows of 14 with showers in the forecast. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 24 degrees. It'll change soon. Highs of 29 and lows of 23. Partly cloudy in Malindi at 24 degrees. Highs of 28 today. And let's step out of Kenya into Kampala. It's 18 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. It'll change later. Rain is expected to go through into the weekend. Highs of 28 and lows of 18. Clear skies in Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees. Highs of 31 today. And clear skies in Johannesburg as well. Partly cloudy conditions to follow. It'll be a warm day to highs of 26 and down to lows of 12. Let's take a look into Lagos, where thunderstorms are taking place currently. 28 degrees. It'll go and remain at that high, come down to lows of 23, and rain is touted to last throughout the day. Let's take a look into Europe, where it's mostly cloudy in London at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Those sunny conditions will last throughout the day. Beijing is mostly sunny today at 24, highs of 27 and lows of 12. And finally, for now, Wednesday night in New York, it's a warm night at 20 degrees. They'll wake up to partly cloudy conditions with highs of 23 and lows of 18.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
C.T. Muga, what is today's proverb?
Well, yes, this one is not difficult to fathom. A man who, actually, here, I almost confused one with the other. And I started reading one which I'd actually mentioned before. But nonetheless, let me continue. A man who pays respect to the great paves way for his own greatness.
A man who pays respect
To the great, paves way for his own greatness. Change the word a little bit, throw in respect here and there, to an appropriate position, and the meaning becomes very clear.
Okay. Yeah, it does.
Okay. We'll look at it in the Kenyan context as we go along.
In the course of time, yes.
Yes. So let's look at the headlines in the papers this morning. Where do you want to start?
Well, just looking at what's happening with the expressway, let's look at that one big story that's taking place. Fun cut short as Luna Park makes way for the expressway. Well, Luna Park was one of the first things that I heard about when I came here in terms of activities for people during the weekend.
Luna Park.
Let me ask the question. When you came to Kenya, what means did you use to arrive in this wonderful country?
Sorry?
What means? Did you come by bus,
By boat.
by boat, by plane?
I came by plane.
Okay. Huh? Carry on.
So, workers carrying remnants of the structures they once occupied at Luna Park signified an end that they never saw coming. For over 30 years, the park has been an attraction for city families seeking fun. But now, the famous entertainment spot is paving way for the Nairobi Expressway, a 27-kilometer road meant to decongest the city. The space where the park sits has been marked to act as a bus stop upon completion of the highway. Yesterday morning, there was no sign of activities at the park, save for sightings of business operators huddled in groups, discussing what the future held. Food vendors tried to salvage what they could from the premise. After a notice from Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, to acquire the space where they have been operating for more than a decade. According to the notice, a presidential order has been issued to KENHA beginning September 15th, 2020 for commencement of the Nairobi Expressway Road. We hereby issue you with an 8-hour notice to vacate the premise, failure to which you will be forcefully ejected. Most of the traders said they had not been given enough time, but Kenya and KENHA in this case insists that they had early been issued with a Gazette notice. So Luna Park now will be no more. It was demolished yesterday to pave way for the expressway.
I'm seeing the owner of the park, the gentleman called Gerard Kimari, saying that they had meetings with the NMS boss, General Mohammed Badi, on how this transition will take place. And they've been told that the park might be spared, but there will be changes to allow for construction of the highway. Nothing is 100%. We're still having discussions about this, and we'll have more meetings. Well,
He's owner of the park, meaning he owns the equipment and also the land on which
The park rests.
the lease.
the lease.
The lease. The land belongs to the railway workers retirement
Fund.
benefits scheme fund,
Fund.
that thing.
Pension.
Right. Yeah, pension. And then he had been leased the piece of land to operate this. Then also now he had some leased to.
So essentially
small
what we are
shops.
saying is, that pension fund can anticipate a compensation from the government.
The pension fund has already dealt with the government, and it's actually the one which finally issued the notice to them to leave.
This is very good.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting. The thing that has been on my mind, among the other things that has also
Apart
been
from
on my
rice,
mind, rice and, yes, and pebbles, the matter, but this one we'll discuss later, the matter of counties shutting down. What it means, what it implies. But why I mention it is because this, under national news, there's something that is quoted, and the person being quoted is a Makueni senator. He is quoted as having said the following. If governors accede to the memo by Governor Oparanya, they will have violated the Constitution. The Supreme Court issued an unequivocal order on release of funds pending determination of any issue concerning division of revenue. So,
That matter of there are two pieces of legislation.
yes.
One comes from the National Assembly, another comes from the Senate.
Yes.
And the National Assembly one must come first. So if there is a delay, in any of these pieces of law coming into effect, the Supreme Court even given an advisory. And even the government itself has regulations that have been gazetted that talk about if, for example, the County Allocation of Revenue Act is not enacted in good time, counties can still access 50% of what they have received previously.
I mean, there's a plan B.
There's a plan B, right?
Have they accessed the 50%?
The National Treasury says, you know what, I don't have powers to do this. There's some argument that back and forth that you clearly don't get because this is some advisory coming from the Attorney General to the National Treasury, and the National Treasury is here saying, you know what, so yes, I can disburse money once laws have been passed. Law hasn't been passed according to the National Treasury and according to what he claims to be the advisory. So this is a whole convoluted.
Perhaps the governor will be able to explain this further
Yeah,
to
we
us.
will ask the governor
Shed more clarity.
what exactly is happening here. But yeah, counties are shutting down today. They've basically said, starting with healthcare, no inpatient admission across the country. Now you can imagine how many people are going to require those services just today, and they will not get. From the basics, just from accidents, taken to hospital, require admission, no admission. Yesterday you were going to hospital and you required admission. You come back today, oh, no admission. People who falls, admissions happen on a daily basis in hospitals across the country.
They do. Even before COVID, it was the norm. But now when you say workers have been asked to go home, it means all workers have been asked to go home.
Yeah.
So any service, it presumed that you would expect from the counties, now is not possible.
Yeah. However, I saw a statement by the governor of Machakos County, Dr. Alfred Mutua, and it appears he has sent some workers home, but he has said there are some that are critical functions, and these include healthcare workers. They'll continue working. So I'm not sure whether now, in the case of Machakos, for example, they're saying that we'll still continue admitting.
See, what I find of interest is that if you look at some of the issues, the persistent, the perennial issue that has been raised by county employees in many counties is that they never paid on time.
Yeah.
There are situations where it's not just being paid on time, and not for a month, it's for several months.
Yep.
So, and this is when we didn't have this issue of there not being funds.
Yeah.
So, doesn't it seem strange? Because the mind goes to us, what's the difference here? Because in the past, we've had situations where the workers are not being paid anyway, and yet there was money. But now, officially, there is no money.
Were the workers complaining that they're not being paid, or that their collective bargaining agreements are not being implemented?
No. There are
some that would say that our monthly salary has been delayed.
Yes, the delay in salary payment is something that is perennial. It's not...
it's not new.
No, it's not new.
Cash flow management by whatever counties.
Yes,
right?
and then the matter that you now mention about the agreements between the unions and the employers, yes, that comes in, but usually it's just the payment itself of the salaries. It's something that has, should we say, brought in a back and forth discussion for the longest time possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it goes actually to that thing of cash flow. There's a time when Nairobi County workers would constantly down their tools, saying we haven't received our salary for the last 3 months, 4 months.
Yes.
Enter John Gakuo, that was resolved. It ended. Enter Governor Kidero, Governor Sonko. The one thing that they keep talking about is we ensure that our workers are paid. Everything else comes second. The first thing is pay our workers. Well, let's take a break and then look at other headlines. It's now 6:30, and this is the Situation Room, and it's Kenya's biggest conversation. Soja Wa Mundoro says, good morning, team. The Situation Room. You can say good morning to him.
Good morning, soldier.
Good morning.
Salute the soldier.
Jambo sir.
Afande. All right, let's take a look at traffic and then we'll be back.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
Would show that today will not be a crazy day as far as traffic is concerned, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Traffic is moving very well along Mombasa Road at the moment. You're probably going to get to clog up usual areas that we would normally see right around Cabanas and then moving forward from there. But right now it's not too bad. Coming off of Thika Road, heading into the CBD right now, it's slowing down right around the Utali Drift as you head then towards Muthaiga Corner and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. But we'll wait and see what that looks like in about a half hour or so. Coming out of several areas, Mombasa Road, Thika Road, coming out of Westlands, Langata Road, as well as Ngong Road, where everybody meets in the city, is looking pretty good this morning, guys. Hope it remains that way for as long as we can. Today we're going to take a look at what happens outside in terms of Kisumu and Mombasa in about half hour and let you see how that's moving. Don't forget, you can let us know also what you see. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know if you get stuck somewhere or find an alternate route and we can share.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. Other headlines. Raila Odinga Jr. has come up with a shock verdict on ODM. So the man took on to social media yesterday and he gave his personal views on what he felt the party should be doing. Here's what he tweeted. We as ODM need to find our way back to basics. We are not just about private jets and slay queens whilst abusing rival politicians. We have a development agenda clearly outlined in our manifesto. Let's focus on service delivery, democratic space, protecting private citizens' rights. So now that was captured and it trended, and people were commenting back and forth and saying, this is the son of the leader of the party, Raila Odinga Jr. In an uncharacteristic mind, the tweet by ODM leader Raila Odinga Sons Jr. has exposed the soft underbelly of the Orange Party. This is according to the headline in today's Standard. The tweets, interpreted as a warning shot to the party's top brass, who have brazenly waged political battles to real and imaginary foes, stirred the hornet's nest on Tuesday. In the tweet, Raila Jr. rebuked party officials for deviating from the deeply cherished norms to chasing clout and settling political scores. They deviated from what? Have they deviated from anything?
Political clout.
Deeply cherished norms.
Really? Okay.
But you see, it's a tweet, is it not?
It is.
And tweets are not known for details, are they?
No.
So it's a quip. Now, fill in the blanks.
Open to interpretation.
Yes, it is.
When you talk about private jets and slay queens, what comes to mind? We discussed it here. Private jet to the Middle East and a certain handbag in the shot.
There was, yes, a picture of a handbag. Yes, there was. There was, yes.
So what he's saying essentially is that as you think of it, you remember that picture. We shouldn't be remembered for those pictures as ODM, according to what he's saying. Should be remembered for other things like service delivery, democratic space, and focus on that, protecting private citizens' rights, as opposed to this other flashy things that you see. That's not what the party should be known for, because they have, according to him, a reform agenda. And that agenda is what should be sought to be seen by the public.
Reading what has been attributed to the gentleman reminds me very much of his father. Because everything that he has said as the agenda that people ought to be focusing on as a party are the very things that the father has touted for the longest time in his political career. And if you look at the person of the Right Honourable Raila Odinga, you get to understand that this is clearly a man who understood what the term people power means. Yes, because he has for the longest time been a representative of that particular power.
Absolutely.
In speech.
Yes.
Deed could be debated, but in speech.
Actually, deed is not debated.
It is debated, in my opinion.
Well, tell me why, in your opinion, it is debated.
Because deed is different. I mean, if for the longest time you speak like this, if you speak this way and in positions where you have direct influence, then people who are close to you are not behaving or acting the way that you have been speaking, the way what you've been championing, then it tells you that some of the deeds by those people who are very close to you are let to pass.
It is silence
By you.
which is open to interpretation. But for the longest time, if someone has been in a position of constantly being in a position we refer to as the opposition, and if you look at even the votes they've garnered when they've run for the highest seat in the country, you do get the impression that there are a sizable number of people who seem to listen to what he's saying.
Exactly.
That's where the deed comes in. They listen. And if you look at the last election we had and the election, the by-election that followed thereafter, I'm calling it a by-election, though it was a rerun, then again, the issue of the people power comes in, because if you, just by simple deduction, simple arithmetic, the numbers that seem to have voted for the election, the second run, as a percentage, were fewer than those who didn't vote. Now, this is where your point now becomes valid, because it's a debatable point. People didn't vote because they were not allowed to vote.
I think we're actually on a different... in terms of whether deeds translate to being listened to, yeah. No, whether the words gain traction. Do the words gain traction?
They do.
The words that he speaks of publicly, what he says that he stands for, do they gain traction? Of course they do gain traction. And that is why it elevates him to that position where he comes out as a champion for the people. He comes out as a person who speaks for the people.
Actually, what I'm saying is
and
that...
the people power comes in.
I'm actually not saying that he comes out.
The issue of deed, where
Yes.
I'm saying it's debatable, is whether he practices what he preaches.
Actually,
That is why I'm saying the debate, in my opinion, would come in.
I hadn't even gone there yet. I was at the stage where I was saying that when people follow your lead or they believe, it's now perception that you represent them, I was saying that is the example of people power.
Yeah.
People then give you the mandate. That's essentially 100%. What they do.
They trust you.
That is essentially what the point I was trying to make. Now, the deed factor, different debate.
They trust you. They trust that, you really, what you came and told us, we believe
Is what is.
that you're going to champion for
Yes.
our rights. You're going to champion. You really are our champion.
You know, what is also strange about politics, a lot of what constitutes what you call deed is often even in the words and the consistency of what somebody says. Again, not just says, but against not just opposition, but possible danger even.
Yep.
Let's look at a case in point that has been in the media for some time. Utterances that have been made by people who are said to be followers of the deputy president. If you look at, say, for instance, the actions that followed, utterances were made, villagers, neighbors, constituents decided that they were going to take a certain position. Now, you see, again, people power coming to the fore, meaning they support him. All he had done was say some fairly unsavory things, but they seem to resonate with it. Or they will support him anyway, because they think, or they feel, or the perception is that he represents them.
He represents them.
That is where I was coming from.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Until the wool falls. So anyway, there was a clarification that Raila Jr. issued later. He said, as an ordinary ODM member, my views are my own and not that of the party. I am grateful to ODM for allowing democratic space in which different views and opinions are expressed, and my views were not targeting any leaders. I apologize for any misunderstanding. This is because some, even in ODM, had reacted quite sternly to what he was saying. One of them is Silas Jakakimba. And this is Raila's aide. He says, this tweet and its opening line sound like those tabloid stories that begin 10 things you did not know about XYZ.
Can we perhaps...
Number 7 will shock you.
Can we impute that perhaps a nerve was
touched?
Of course.
Touched.
Of course.
Yes, for sure.
Because significantly, unfortunately, what Raila Jr. has said, unfortunately, will not work, neither will it apply. And due to the simple reason, he's Raila Odinga's son. That's it.
Kwisha.
Yes.
Kwisha.
Yes, yes. So it would seem that another thing that Raila has talked about is reggae, and some people want to stop reggae. Ndi and activists ask the court to switch off BBI reggae. Petitioners argue that 5 chapters of the constitution that the Uhuru Raila initiative is seeking to change are the foundations of the country and should not be altered whatsoever. A Nairobi court has been asked to stop the plans to amend the constitution in a case likely to scuttle President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga's Building Bridges initiative. Economist David Ndi and activist Jerichit Seyi, Jane Ngondi, Wanjiro Gikonyo, and Ikal Angale are seeking to stop reggae completely with their eyes on sections of the law which are at the heart of the BBI drive. The petitioners, through lawyer Nelson Harvey, went to court to declare 5 chapters of the 2010 Constitution, Chapter 1, 2, 4, 9, and 10, cannot be altered or changed through amendments, either by Parliament or popular initiative. They argue these chapters form the foundation of the country and should not, therefore, be altered. According to the petition filed yesterday, and it reads in part, if certain fundamental constitutional provisions, principles and values are amended or are seriously altered, the life of the Constitution will come to an end. It is therefore trite to say there is implied limitation to what can qualify as a valid amendment to the Kenyan Constitution. All right?
It's one of those that, CT, you say, it's pushing, both sides pushing the boundaries and seeing what's the best thing for the country.
But this is good.
A very good thing.
This is a very good thing. This is an extremely good thing because what we're now saying is that the various arms of government will have the spotlight on them. Clearly. We will be watching. Oh, by the way, is this one of those things that we can discuss or we can't because it's in court?
We can discuss.
Okay, now, as I was saying...
They made the application, but you see, what we are not talking about the merits of their case.
No.
We're talking about the merits of amending a constitution.
Yes, because the interpretation of this is going to be interesting. And the back and forth will make not just for interesting reading, but an expansion of at least my understanding of this lovely constitution of ours.
Yep.
Yes. The only thing about the findings and the determination by the court, now that will set a precedent.
Yep.
But then there's still the Court of Appeal, is there not?
All the way to the Supreme Court.
Good.
In fact, the Supreme Court, once now, they should have gone and sought the Supreme Court's advisory. Anyway, I think let's see. The Constitution itself sets conditions for amending it.
Yes,
there are some clauses that cannot just be amended without everybody in the country, every voter in the country given a chance to participate.
Essentially a
in
referendum.
making that choice. A referendum. Here the anticipation here, it's basically just going ahead of putting the cart ahead of the horse, is that the BBI report is recommending some amendments that can only happen in Parliament without involving the people.
But remember...
And also the content of that report.
As we discussed the BBI, Eric, remember, there's also the talk of a referendum. So it looks like some people had already considered that. But it's going to make for interesting observation.
It is.
Something that always puzzles me, it's something I don't understand. I mean, maybe my erstwhile colleagues, you can explain this to me. Kenya Power and the narrative that they're always making losses. The last time I was reading such a narrative, the losses came about as a result of the cost of what they had to incur in buying power from agencies or bodies that actually produce power.
Right.
Okay? Now, the Business Daily has as its headline, Kenya Power protests tariff increase freeze. Kenya Power has sent the Energy Ministry a letter protesting delays by the energy regulator in reviewing electricity charges to increase prices by up to a fifth. The listed utility firm has since last year been engaging the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, on the application it made last September seeking the revision of tariffs to cushion it from losses and supplier defaults. Now, supplier defaults, among the list of things is aging equipment, all right, cost of production of power, and the list goes on. And when you read it, you ask yourself, wait, the aging equipment, some of it is within Kenya Power itself. Long story, long time, over a long period. if you know that this is the cause of a problem, why have you not rectified it?
You don't have money to upgrade
Power.
the equipment.
No, this story doesn't make sense to me.
I think Kenya Power has long stories, and I think we ought actually to call somebody from Kenya Power one of these days and just hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
What exactly is it? What leads them to this position? Because there are those that say, look, when we talk about expanding connectivity countrywide, you see, that's Kenya Power's mandate.
Yes.
We have an agency called Ketraco that just does the transmission.
Yes.
Pick power from the
Point A,
main generator,
take it to point B.
take it to a certain point, and then Kenya Power picks it up from there and distributes it now to the consumers. Now, Kenya Power was implementing a political government promise that we are going to have every home connected. And this is a government directive. And let every home be connected. And remember those pictures of entering a home and looking at whether the light has come on.
Switching on.
And then many of those people later you come to realize that they cannot really afford how much they're being charged.
No, they can't.
For that.
They can't.
Many of those costs were to be borne by Kenya Power. You know, initially Kenya Power would charge you per pole. You know how long it's going to take how many poles it's going to take to bring power to your house. Now some of that was absorbed. So some of them argue that those costs led to something, and they are part of the reason why we are in such doldrums. We have power going into places, and there are people who are consuming power, and we cannot switch them off because it's a political issue. They are not paying for this power, or how much they're paying is not really enough. Doesn't cover the cost of giving the power to them. It's a conversation that we ought to bring someone.
And I
from
think,
Kenya
as
Power.
you correctly put it, the conversation will be much richer if we actually bring someone from Kenya Power to someone explain these things to us.
Yeah, because, from a layman's point of view, when they look at this and you say, all right, even if power is being distributed across the country, it's not being done for free. People are still making payments in order to receive this service. So, if you look at it with all simplicity applied, you get power, you pay for it. And they're the only ones that are supplying power in this country.
It's a monopoly.
So why should they be experiencing losses?
Not only that, have we not read in the past that we actually produce more power than we can actually consume? So this is where I get confused.
Currently, we have an energy surplus.
Yes. So how is it that when the supply is more than the demand, in our case, we go against the very basic laws of economics? Our prices shoot up. When supply is more than demand, the idea is that the cost should actually go down. Ours doesn't.
Big conversation. 10 minutes to 7. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You know, the U.S. military is helping in the fight against terrorism, especially across the border in Somalia, right? And we've heard of many instances where there have been successful drone strikes in Somalia targeting key Al-Shabaab targets. Now, the U.S. military is seeking authority from the defense secretary and their president and also the legislators so that they can expand that anti-terror war drone, the drone war into the country. Basically, if they get wind of, they have sufficient actionable intelligence that tells them that known terror financial mastermind or activist is within the boundaries of the Republic of Kenya, they can unleash that thing from the sky.
So essentially,
And
they want
bomb
to
the
move
daylights.
from just surveillance and information gathering to armed drones.
Within the country.
Okay.
So this is a matter that is, of course, raising quite some debate in terms of if you have another external force waging war within your country. What's the involvement of your own military, your own government? I mean, and at what point does your government participate in this? In terms of in sanctioning it? Should it be right? Should it be okay? If you remember the attack in Manda Bay military base
Yes.
by the Al-Shabaab, where one of the planes that was actually destroyed was just on the runway, was about to take off, heading to Somalia, because that's what it does. It goes there, conducts reconnaissance missions, very well-equipped military equipment that is able to gather intelligence from up in the air, was destroyed. So I think the Americans are feeling, hey, some of these guys cross over into Kenya, so we can't launch a drone attack on them.
You know, given their size and given what they're able to do, they're a very useful tool in quietly gathering information without the person from whom the information is being gathered even being aware of it. You know, I remember before the advent of the drones, there were some planes called AVACs a long time ago. Now, these are planes that would fly at a distance up in the air that, well, us ordinary mortals would not even understand or know, but very useful for gathering information. And then remember, if you leave the drones aside, then you have satellites. You know, modern satellites have the capacity to zoom in to the point where you can actually even get facial recognition. If a simple app like Google Earth
Can do this.
which is available to anyone. Now, can you imagine, and it's available, can you imagine then what a military giant like the US can do with what it has? Boggles the mind.
It does. It gives you the heebie-jeebies as well.
But
So do you think it would be a good thing for them to get this authority?
where should this matter not be discussed in Parliament?
In our parliament?
Yes, because it is a national security issue.
Yeah, for sure, because you have to look at what it
So
actually means.
Yes,
But
it's-
even as it's being discussed in our parliament, what would your opinion be?
in my opinion, you know, my opinions in a matter such as this one doesn't really matter. And taking from the perspective that it doesn't matter, let me say this.
You are the sovereign man. The sovereignty of this republic.
Yes, I am, but this is a security matter on which I actually am not even well equipped to discuss, because for me to effectively discuss it, I need to have information that I don't have just by virtue of my being a layman. But let me speak as a layman, all right? There's this understanding that we seem to have with the United States and Great Britain. With the understanding is with regard to our security. Now, that understanding seems to imply to me that it takes care of our interests and also takes care of this partner that we have, whether it's the US or the UK. Now, if it does not interfere with our sovereignty, or if it doesn't take away our sovereignty, meaning we have the last say on the matter, then I would not see it as a problem, because it will be a continuation of what we already have. But if in one way or the other it does interfere with our sovereignty, then it would not be a good thing for us, because essentially it's like we'll have given up our sovereignty. on a sensitive matter like security.
It would be interesting to know if, Kenya, in terms of reciprocity, if Kenya was doing the same thing in the US, for example. I really don't think that that discussion would have even reached, can we try to forget it? It would never have happened. So,
I like what you're saying, because what you're suggesting is that were we a world power?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. Are we a regional power? Yes. So would we do the same thing with our neighbors?
That's the thing. Big question. Let's see how this unfolds. Before we go to the top of the hour, let's just look at this story. The sect called the Kavanokia Sect. Remember we talked about it a couple of weeks back. There was some community that conducted some rites of passage.
Yes.
Young boys went through circumcision, and then they were, of course, not taken to hospital. They're not put under any form of anesthesia, and one of them bled to death. No, actually, two bled to death. And their parents belonged to the sect.
Yeah.
They were buried, and there was a whole furore out of it. Now, the leader of this Kavanokia sect has passed away. He was a 71-year-old man. He died last Thursday after falling ill the previous day. He was buried immediately. This man was from Tharaka Nithi. This sect is actually a huge sect. Apparently, it's over 50 years old in this country. It has hundreds of thousands of members from the entire Tharaka Nithi, going into parts of Ukambani and other parts of the country. Now, the members of this sect are camped at the home of their former leader because they are mourning and praying for a successor. And the leader who has passed away, his name was Getonga Mtompunguru. Getonga Mtompunguru. Passed away. The sect members are now there. They are praying day and night without ceasing, praying for a new sect leader.
It's interesting. Did they break away from some...
It would be interesting to understand their history, actually.
It would, because you see, there are those sects that could be called adherents to traditional African religions. And then the breakaway ones, they also fall in that category. Like the Legio Maria, Legion of Mary, they were a breakaway from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Roman Catholic Church.
Roman Catholic
Church.
Yes.
Coming up to the top of the hour, this is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Are counties shutting down hospitals or not, and why? Good morning, it's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, let's see what the roads look
Traffic.
like now. Coming off of Mombasa Road today, it's not too bad, but we know that between Mlolongo and Gateway Mall, there is a hold-up. Traffic has started. Overlapping of lorries and matatus. That's going to affect traffic outbound on Mombasa Road today. And getting then towards Bellevue, where the construction has already started this morning, it clogs up some more. As you get to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, however, heading into the CBD, not so bad at the moment, but prepare for more traffic between Nyayo Stadium roundabout and Westlands. Let's look into industrial area, where we know already that certain roads have been closed, Lunga to Likoni, and then trying to head out then towards Jogo Road. That's not happening because of the road construction that's taking place there. So traffic has been heightened just because of that. Okay, coming off of Thika Road into the CBD, not so bad either. It's moving bumper to bumper. Well, not so much. It's moving slowly, so we're not at a bumper to bumper situation just yet. We'll be smack dab in the middle of traffic hour, about half hour or so. So we want to make sure that you're moving. The eastern and southern bypasses today, not bad, looking good. It'll take you longer, but you'll get there without having to wait for too long. All right, let's take a look at more details as we go through. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Just in case you get stuck, or if you find a route that nobody's using, let us know before they find out.
It's like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur.
2.5 minutes after 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, in Eldoret is 96.7, Malindi is 97.7, and Nyeri 90.9, and Nyeri's frequency goes all the way to Nanyuki, where we've been getting some callers, and the governor who will be speaking to us this morning is in Nanyuki, so they're tuned in on 90.9 in Nyeri. Before we begin the hour, City, let's start with today's proverb.
A man who pays respect to the great paves way for his own greatness.
A man who pays respect to the
great paves way
for his own
greatness.
Okay. This must have come from people who thought they are great and they wanted to be recognized.
That is it.
Respect me so that you shall also be great.
And you might also get to be respected.
Yeah. These are just opinion leaders and opinion shapers who want to be respected, forcing themselves to be called Mheshimiwa. Call me a Mheshimiwa, and one day you might just be.
I might actually call you a Mwananchi Mtukufu.
Yeah. So, this issue of allocation of revenue to the different counties, right?
Yes.
After the Division of Revenue Bill was passed and agreed upon, 316.5 billion shillings to go to all the 47 counties. And each of the 47 counties to receive its equitable share through a formula that is changed after every 5 years. Now, there has been this whole issue of the third basis formula that has sat in the Senate since it was taken to the Senate by the Commission for Revenue Allocation in April 2019. But the last couple of months is when we've seen the Senate going back and forth and not agreeing on how the new formula shall look like. And for that reason, they have also not now passed a crucial piece of legislation called the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, which becomes the Act, which is now what decides of this 316.5 billion shillings. How much does County A receive? How much does County B receive? All the way to county number 047, Nairobi. How much do each of these counties receive? That back and forth has led to the impasse in the Senate. Then that back and forth, we are told, has also led to counties not receiving money in this financial year. Since July 1st, 2020, counties have not been able to access any funds because the National Treasury argues that its hands are tied. It doesn't know how much to give who wants what, how much, under what legal basis. Now, that back and forth is what has seen the Council of Governors also come up in various platforms to say, guys, please agree on this. But also, Council of Governors, remember, had gone to court last year on the issue of delays in the Division of Revenue Bill, which we had witnessed last year. And because of that, the Supreme Court came up with its own opinion and set a precedent and said this is what should happen. But anyway, let's look at what happened yesterday. There was a circular issued by the chairman of the Council of Governors to all the Excellency governors. You know, I now have to call them Excellency so that one day I shall also...
Now. They've always had that particular title.
I will now refer to them as Excellency every time so that, you know, I pay respect to Washimiwa so that one day I can also become a Mwashimiwa.
You might even become excellent.
Just going with today's proverb. This is what the circular read. Reference is made to the above matter, and the above matter is the impending shutdown occasioned by lack of resources, and further to the resolution made in the council meeting of the 8th of September 2020. Since then, the Senate has still not been able to unlock the stalemate on the flow of funds. It's therefore not clear when this impasse will be resolved. In this regard, all county governments are advised to issue necessary notices as follows. 1. County health facilities will not permit any new inpatient admissions. They'll only provide minimal outpatient services. And number 2, all non-essential services are hereby suspended and county employees are advised to proceed on leave for 2 weeks. In the meantime, the council will continue to push for the speedy release of the county funds. Signed by His Excellency Wycliffe Oparanya, the Governor of Kakamega County and the Chairman of the Council of Governors. Of course, now we saw the reaction of that in the Senate, in the whole Republic, because what we are saying is hospitals across the country that are, of course, under the county governments, save for the level 6 hospitals, and that is the National Referral Hospitals, Kenyatta, and
Moi.
Moi in Eldoret. All the other hospitals are in the counties, and you're not going to get admission. You can imagine how many people actually get admitted to hospital on a daily basis across the Republic. And we are saying that now we cannot see this happen. Of course, this is not an easy thing. It's not even an easy conversation to have. And the Senate yesterday reacted. But the reaction of the Senate, as you saw in the afternoon on the floor of the House, was on the statement by the governor, was pushback on the person of Wycliffe Oparanya, the position of the Council of Governors and the governors themselves, calling them, this is not a Council of Governors, it's a Council of Gangsters.
Wow. Is that?
Let's seek to understand this particular matter and bring in one of the members of the Council of Governors. And this is the Laikipia Governor, Derito Muriithi. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you
Your
doing?
Excellency,
How are you
Eric
doing, Your
Ratcliffe.
Excellency?
Good morning. I am fine, thank you.
Good morning.
Look, great to talk to all of you. On the call me great, you'll be great point. The standing orders of most jurisdictions, the standing orders in most parliaments say that it shall be dishonorable to call yourself honorable, because it's not for you to say. It's not for you to say. It's for others to determine whether you are honorable. So that even in my own case, it would be very dishonorable for me to call myself My Excellency or some other thing like that. It's for others to determine if in fact we are befitting of those titles. As for Eric being His Excellency, I have no doubts in my mind that he has everything it takes, and probably more, to be His Excellency, Governor of one county or another, or indeed President of this Republic.
Your Excellency, you have no idea what you've just unleashed.
John, please make sure that we have this clip.
We're going to be forced to listen to this on a very regular basis, in and out of the studio, by virtue of those words that you have just uttered.
Oh, my bad. But believe you me,
No. It shall be dishonorable of me to impose on this on you. All right? I expect that you guys will be calling me Your Excellency Eric going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the subject of the day, let me start with the Supreme Court reference, and say that in fact it is not an opinion, it is a ruling of the Supreme Court, and generally a ruling of the Supreme Court is to be taken as law, because it is law.
Yep.
And listening to your intro, you have explained it perfectly. I just think it was a bit sad yesterday, the way the senators reacted to this question, because the truth is, whether you like Governor Oparanya or not, the truth of the matter is that counties have not been able to access our equitable share, and it makes it impossible to continue providing services. I hope Kenyans know that this whole financial year, we have not been able to access our equitable share, the result of which many counties have not been able to pay salaries. For example, of the medical staff, the very ones at the front line of trying to contain the COVID pandemic. So I think the where we are at the moment is that it really is impractical. It's not possible because you are asking people who you have not paid salaries for 3 months to continue working. And it is frankly a bit inhuman to do so. Now, the even sadder bit is that contrary to what the Treasury is saying, the law exists allowing them to disburse up to 50% of last year's allocations. And this law is contained in the public finance PFM regulations at Regulation 134, which reads very plainly that if the CARA is not approved by Parliament on time, then you will disburse 50% of the previous year's CARA. So we are in a circumstance where senior people heading institutions are basically refusing to follow the law. And it is putting the country in a very big quandary. Finally, they have relied on a very, shall I say, odd opinion provided by the Honorable Attorney General to the effect that the PFM regulations are bad law. And unfortunately, that opens an even bigger can of worms, because if the regulations are not good law, then nobody is bound in the Republic to obey those regulations.
Yes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, most of the things we are doing or we do are usually elaborated in regulations that are subsequent to the main act. So he hasn't been helpful at all. I fear that he has actually unleashed a very big genie where if you ask us now, like for instance, take a big point often raised, Eric and team, about wages and salaries, where the law says we must try to contain wages and salaries so that all the money is not only going for salaries, and it is capped at 35%. That is contained in a PFM regulation. So if the regulations are bad law, as the Attorney General has said, then we are not bound to honor them. Yeah, which is a very, very sad way of looking at things, and I fear for devolution, given the state of play today.
Governor, sorry, City, just ask.
No, what I wanted to ask is, what you've quoted is an utterance by the Attorney General. So, yeah. Do I understand you to mean that when the Attorney General makes an utterance...
It's an opinion, actually, written officially.
Yes, but it's an utterance nonetheless. An opinion is an utterance, a long one, but an utterance. So does it then become law? It's just an opinion.
No. It doesn't become law, but what is happening is that our colleagues, the Controller of Budget, and the CS for National Treasury, as well as his key technical people, they are using that opinion to say that their hands are tied. Because remember, we have been asking them, why are you not proceeding on the basis of your own regulations? Because again, remember, the Public Finance Act regulations are drafted by the Treasury and the Attorney General. So we are asking them, why are you not following your own rules? And then they're saying, well, we are relying on the Attorney General, who has said that the rules are not very good, that they are bad law. And therefore,
if you allow me, Governor, just so that we can bring everybody on board on this, this is a letter written to the Council of Governors by the Attorney General on the 11th of September 2020, legal basis for disbursing to counties when the division of revenue is in place. So there are, of course, various introductory parts of this. They say it talks about now the Regulation 134 of the Public Finance Management National Government Regulations 2015. The above-mentioned regulation provides as follows: equitable transfer before approval of county allocation of revenue bill. And this is what it says. if the county allocation of revenue bill, which now is what we expect to be coming out of the Senate, submitted to Parliament for a financial year has not been approved by Parliament or is not likely to be approved by Parliament by the beginning of the financial year, the Controller of Budget may authorize withdrawal of up to 50% from the Consolidated Fund based on the last County Allocation of Revenue Act approved by Parliament for the purposes of meeting expenditure of the county government for the financial year. This is what the regulation says. Part 2 of that says the authority under paragraph 1 shall seize upon assent of the County Allocation of Revenue Act for the financial year, and also the transfer to county governments made under paragraph 1 under this regulation shall form part of their equitable transfer for the financial year. Makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. But he says, from the Attorney General's desk, we note that the foregoing regulation provides a framework for the disbursement of funds from the Consolidated Fund to the counties in the event that the Allocation of Revenue Act has not been approved by Parliament. However, it is our considered opinion that the said regulation is of doubtful constitutional validity. As noted hereinafter, he says that. Yes, I pause.
Pause there, Eric. These regulations are drafted by the same Attorney General for and on behalf or together with the National Treasury.
Yep.
So that statement, I find it a statement of incredible direction, because if his office prepared these regulations.
Yep.
Together with the county, with the National Treasury.
And the regulation actually is not even passed. It has to go to Parliament, go to the Committee of Delegated Legislation, and then it's approved by the entire House before it actually goes into effect.
Exactly. So that we are faced with as I said.
But his argument, if you just allow me to continue, the argument that he says here is that, as noted, Article 2062 of the Constitution directs that money may be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund only in accordance with an appropriation by an Act of Parliament, in accordance with Article 222 or 223, or a charge against the fund is as authorized by the Constitution or an Act of Parliament. So he says that this regulation is not an Act of Parliament. That is the argument.
That's the argument, Eric. But
it's a regulation that brings to effect an Act of Parliament, isn't it?
The courts have pronounced themselves many times, and I'm quite sure retired Justice Kihara himself recalls ruling on this many times, that the regulations are part and parcel of the Act, because they are the ones that operationalize the Act.
Yep.
So they must be led together. But even if be that as it may, Eric, if you are to look at Article 202 of the Constitution, it does not, it's actually very straightforward. It does not create any dependencies of any kind. It simply says that revenue raised nationally shall be shared equitably among the national government and county governments. So that the Constitution does not even really care, if I can use that word a bit carefully, about whether you make the regulation or not. It simply says the nationally raised revenue shall be shared equitably between national and county governments. Further on, at Article 219 of the Constitution, again, the Constitution demands that the county's share, and I read it, a county's share of the revenue raised nationally shall be transferred to the county without undue delay and without deduction. So that these regulations are merely trying to operationalize that part. Also, finally, this idea about an Act of Parliament is debunked by the fact that the Act and the regulations are one and the same. And if you look further down in the Constitution, it tries to encourage everybody, demands actually, that when we read the Constitution, we read it for purposes of promoting the rights of Kenyans, not for purposes of curtailing the rights of Kenyans. Now, the import of what Justice Kihara has done basically is to put in jeopardy, for example, the right to access healthcare, because without money, we will not be able to run health services. So I just think it's a terrible, terrible circumstance we are in. But perhaps we should also look then at what about then the Senate and the National Assembly. What is their role in this whole circuit? Now, what has happened, as you know, Eric and team, is that the Senate has been or has failed to agree on the third basis of sharing revenue among counties. Again, a very sad circumstance, given that they have been considering this issue for more than a year and a half. The formula having been presented to them by the CRA around about April, May of 2019. In addition, the Senate has been unwilling to process the CARA using the existing formula, so that now they are not unable to agree on the new, and they are unwilling to use the old. And that's what has resulted in the CARA being 5 months late. And without it, and with the National Treasury refusing to obey its own regulations, then basically we are stuck.
So are we saying, Governor, that, with all that has transpired now and getting to the point at which we are now, that counties were absolutely forced to take the decision that was taken yesterday in terms of now shutting down operations? Was it that it was a situation that was absolutely, you couldn't get away from it completely? Was it the last resort?
It is the last resort. Look, if in more than a dozen counties, staff are either on strike or having served notice for strike. Why? Because the cash flows we have from own source revenue are not sufficient to support the services required. So that we absolutely, some counties have made local arrangements to borrow, for instance, but remember the borrowing is capped at 5% of your budget. So within a month or so, you basically exhaust the opportunity you have to raise monies from borrowing. So we are in a circumstance in many counties where staff have not been paid since June, we are frankly at a point where we may not be able to continue. It's a bit like if you are in a bus or in a car, when the petrol is finished, it is finished. Even if the Senate calls us whatever names, the reality is that there is no petrol in the car. It cannot run.
So was this action then to elicit a further reaction, or was the action really that hands-up approach that we really cannot do anything? Or are we looking at pushing a particular agenda here to say that we're going to do this to elicit reaction, or truly, there is nothing we can do and we cannot operate as counties?
Well, look, I think it is prudent for any manager to face the reality of her circumstance. I think it would be inhuman to continue demanding that people work if you actually cannot pay them.
Right.
And in any case, that is why as I said, about at least a dozen counties, there is already precipitate action by the workers themselves. So we are not doing it in order to elicit any reaction. We are simply taking the only course available to us as managers of these institutions. But if you're asking the separate question that what should happen, what will happen, I think that certainly the National Treasury and the Controller of Budget need to re-examine their position, both legally as institutions and also as individuals, because we believe now they are liable to prosecution under the PFM Act at 196 because of violating the PFM. And lawyers will be looking into this today to see if we cannot bring prosecution against these two senior people in their own personal capacity. I also think that it is incumbent upon the Senate to conclude this matter one way or other. If the Senate cannot yet agree on the new formula, they should proceed on the basis of the old formula so that we are not punishing Kenyans. And I think that if you read the Supreme Court ruling from last year, the Supreme Court said that it is inconceivable and the Constitution does not contemplate in continuity in government. And that is why the Supreme Court said last year that if Parliament continues in this rogue behavior, the courts will be very willing to entertain petitions for the dissolution of this Parliament. And they continue to say, we forewarn the Parliament that it runs the risk of dissolution. And I also expect that in the coming days, you will see Kenyans of goodwill presenting petitions in the High Court for the dissolution of the Senate. But all of these things would be really unnecessary if both the Senate and the National Treasury were to simply agree to do what is right for all Kenyans and to stop holding Kenyans at ransom.
Your Excellency, if you are allowed to speculate, what do you really think is going on?
Are you a student of history?
I am a student of history, yes.
You know, in the 60s, we started off with devolution. As a matter of fact, it was perhaps a stronger version of devolution than the current one. We had regions, we had regional assemblies, we had, in fact, regional presidents, and the Constitution guaranteed regions 32% of all commodity taxes and 100% of all taxation on petroleum. And you can find that at Article 137 and 138 of the 1963 Constitution. In 1964, 65, 66, the same script that is going on today was applied. And the regions were denied access to money. As a result, the medics at that time, as well as the teachers and so on, were going on strike every month, every quarter. And in the end, the Senate itself was abolished via a constitutional amendment number 4 of 1966. So that one day, in January of 1967, the senators went home as senators, and the following day, they came back as members of parliament, or members of the National Assembly. For instance, in Laikipia, we had one constituency which was called Laikipia Nanyuki. It was divided into two. Then the MP went to Laikipia West, and the senator became the MP of Laikipia East. And that was the end of devolution. My own speculation, Eric, is that, look, devolution is facing a similar assault. Because frankly, look, these guys, these are really very highly competent, accomplished, senior people. If you think about the controller of budget, if you think about the CS to the Treasury, if you think about the Accountant General, who is the one who signs the checks, if you will, if you think about the Honorable Attorney General, he himself is a retired justice of the Court of Appeal. I mean, these are really senior people with so much experience and knowledge. It is inconceivable. It is inconceivable that they are doing this, not knowing what they're doing. Think about the Senate. the Senate seems caught like a deer, in bright headlights. The Senate seems caught in a thing that they are unable to get out of, as though they are being manipulated by forces elsewhere. Anyway, I think I better stop speculating.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break, Governor. We're speaking with Governor Derito Murray. The action that the governors have taken now in terms of withdrawing services, because they say that they don't have money to finance these services. They don't have money to pay salaries. Let's look at that, the impact that it has on Wanjiku. At the very end, it is the grass that is suffering, and we are the grass. So let's talk about now the plight of the grass. At 28 minutes to 8 o'clock, a quick break, and then we will come back and continue a conversation with the Laikipia Governor, Derito Murray. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, Nairobi is looking really cloudy this morning at 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 13. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 14, going to highs of 25 and lows of 13 today. Nakuru is sunny at 14, highs of 25. And in Eldoret this morning, it's mostly sunny at 14, going to highs of 22 and a chance of rain later in the afternoon. 29 degrees in Kisumu. Highs of 29 and lows of 19. Mostly sunny in Kakamega at 17, going to highs of 27 and showers expected later. 23 degrees and mostly sunny in Mombasa, going to highs of 28. In Malindi, it's 24 degrees, going to highs of 28 and lows of 24. Partly cloudy conditions through the day. 19 degrees in Kampala, highs of 28 and lows of 18. 23 degrees and mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam. Look out for that fog though. Highs of 31 and lows of 22. Warming up and mostly sunny in Joburg at 13 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 12. Showers continue in Lagos, and still at 28 degrees, we will see highs today in Lagos of 28, coming down to lows of 23.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice up your life.
The extraction of utility pipes on Mombasa Road continues, and this is going to affect traffic. It is already affecting traffic this morning. It's moving very slowly then all the way from Lolongo out towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, so traffic is at its height right now. Also, let's look into Industrial area, where the disruption of traffic on Likoni Road, Jogo Road, Lunga Road, that section, for the upgrade of the road from existing a single carriageway to a dual carriageway. This is what we know. There's going to be an inconvenience, and it's going to be there for the next few days. All right. Unfortunately, coming off of Thika Road today, it's very, very slow. Bumper to bumper situation. You'll get out of it in good time, we hope, but it shouldn't be too crazy moving forward. All right, let's keep looking at the conditions as they are on the roads and hope you get where you're going in good time. Spice of MKE. Give us a shout if you need to.
Spice FM, Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. right.
23 minutes to 8.
94.4.
This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this and every morning is CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif. And joining us on the line this morning is Laikipia Governor Nderito Mureithi. So, counties have shut down, CT.
Yes,
People who are going to be seeking medical services will basically not be admitted if we just go. If governors actually agree to do what the Council of Governors chairman advised them to do, is this a good thing to do?
I don't think the decision was taken lightly, because if I look at the reaction that came from the Senate, you get the impression that they felt that the Council of Governors were just playing around. But remember, these are the people who are at the helm of determining what happens within their counties. Such a decision cannot be arrived at lightly. To shut down your own county when you know very well what that would mean?
Which is why I actually also come back to what Ndu you were asking. I mean, was this the last resort? Have you exhausted all other options, Governor, before you say that when Jiko goes to hospital today, she will be turned away and told you cannot get admission services?
For instance, Odu, yesterday morning we had yet another emergency meeting with the CS Treasury and his team, with the Controller of Budget, with the Honorable Attorney General. We are not able to make headway. The day before, there was a big meeting in the big house with the big leaders of all the entities concerned. These two meetings are at the tail end of maybe 30, 40 different sessions and consultations, all that have not yielded. We have gone to every office, written petitions to the Attorney General. I myself have had occasion to sit down with the Honorable Attorney General and walk him through what we believe is the law. We have put it on paper. I mean, we have done everything possible. We have engaged the House leadership, both of the Senate and of the House of Assembly, of the National Assembly. I mean, we have done everything possible, and we haven't given up yet. As you know, yesterday, we went to the High Court, again, to try and afford all parties an opportunity. So, for instance, we are saying to the institutions, because they are framing goodwill, and we're saying, look, if really you are genuine in what you're saying, come to court, because they are saying our hands are tied. There is no law to disburse.
Yeah. So
we have approached the court, and we are saying then to the National Treasury and to the Auditor General, the Controller, and to the AG, look, come to court then. Let's record consent so that then your hands are untied by the court. So if they're genuine, then that's the action we expect they will do. We have not given up. I have told you we are also considering legal action against them as individual officers, pursuant to or following the Public Finance Management Act. We cannot give up. We are governors. We are Kenyans. We cannot give up.
Governor,
we must keep trying.
Do you smell a rat here, or are you seeing it for face value in terms of, all right, their hands are tied, there's something to do with the law, or do you think that there's something deeper than what the eye can perceive?
Odu, as I said in my speculation, and look, I have to say it is speculation because I don't have 100% proof. But you see, when you see smoke, there is a really high likelihood that there is fire where that smoke is coming from. So that the actions we are seeing suggest, for example, in the BBI, there was a push to do away with counties and have regions, or have both counties and regions.
Yeah.
Could it be that the proponents of this idea want to create confusion in this sector in order to justify their action? Number one. Number two, could it be, and remember, colleagues, devolution was, if you will, a ceasefire agreement. In January of 2008, when this country came very close to civil war, the many of the underlying issues were feelings of exclusion, that we believe we are marginalized by so and so and so and so and so on. And the solution was to devolve power and therefore the use of resources, so that then we in our own county are for the most part in charge of our own outcomes. But there were many who did not necessarily believe. So could it be that the faction that did not really believe in devolution, the faction that was forced to concede devolution, could it be that they are now moving as they did in the 60s?
That they have regrouped.
Sorry?
That they have regrouped. If we look at...
They have regrouped. Thank you, Eric. Could it be that they have regrouped?
If we look at the debate that we've been having in the Senate over this extended period of time, back and forth, there's stalemate, there's serious no proper agreement, and then even splitting the discussion into there are gainers and there are losers. And then there's a faction called Team Kenya, and then there's the other faction that is really pushing and saying those that are against the if we don't pass this formula, BBI is dead. Why would there be such grandstanding? That's number one. And number two, there has been concern as well that during this whole entire debate, the Council of Governors has not lent its voice on the debate, on the issue of formula. As people who are in charge of counties, as people who are actually on the ground, and you understand the impact that an extra shilling or a shilling less would have on the operations of counties, why is it that the Council of Governors has not really come out to say, okay, we have looked at the proposed formula by the CRA, we have looked at the various amendments, and this is what we think would be a good way to go?
Oh, but Eric, I beg respectively to disagree with you, because remember, this formula did not come yesterday.
Yep.
This formula has been about 2.5 years in the making. It has already been before Senate, meaning it was taken to the Senate more than 1.5 years ago.
Yep.
Before that, the Commission for Revenue Allocation had spent more than a year crafting this formula, engaging with us over and over, engaging with the Senate over and over. Now, the reason, back to the question Udu asked me and you asked me when we were speculating, ask the question in the following manner. Most policy, and I'm sure Mr. Muga will agree with me, most policy, there's nothing like neutral policy. When you make policy, some people may lose and some people may gain. The question always is, are the gains more than the losses so that the gains can compensate the losses? Now, when we moved from the first formula to the second formula, about 28 counties were worse off, quote unquote, meaning they got slightly less money than they had gotten the year before. But there was no hula baloo.
Yep.
In this particular formula, 17 counties are slightly worse off. Now, you can ask the question, by how much? What is the totality of the amount by which these 17 counties are worse off? So 17 or 19, the number is escaping me. It could be 19. But the total amount, Eric, is 12.5 billion. 12.5 billion. Yeah. So pause there for a moment. The national budget is 3.1 trillion. So that 10% of that budget is about 310 billion.
Yeah.
So that 1% of that budget is 31 billion.
Yeah.
We are looking for 12 billion. It is less than 0.5 percentage point
of the national budget.
How can we be quarreling about that, Eric? I mean, tell me, am I living in a different universe? How can that be a big issue among us? Less than 1.5%. How much are people stealing from KEMSA?
Or even from the counties?
How much was Itare Dam? How much was Kimwarel Dam? So how can we be quarreling about 12 billion? How can we be putting the lives of Kenyans at risk over 12 billion? How can we debate 12 billion for 2 years?
Your Excellency, something comes to mind here when we talk about the gains and the losses. If we look at how the equitable distribution was planned and how it was actually put into operation, was there not an understanding that there would be changes at some point in the future? Was there not an understanding even at the time that the monies that were being given to certain counties was with the understanding that certain things needed to be done and this couldn't be done ad infinitum? At some point, they ought to have been done. So if the money allocated for it at that time was given, then at some point that money would not be there.
In fact, Mr. Muga, the Constitution goes further because it creates the Equalization Fund.
Yep.
Yes.
In the Equalization Fund has accumulated over 100 billion shillings, which actually has not been spent. So that if you accept, and you must accept, well, I personally believe it myself, that some areas of Kenya were left behind for a long time in terms of whatever. So what is the solution? The solution was to create a special fund that would last for 20 years, called the Equalization Fund, which would be utilized exclusively in those counties or in those areas that had been left behind in the course of development of the last 50 years. In addition, the whole point of creating a commission for revenue allocation is to afford ourselves to create a specialist body that would continuously work to try and ensure that resources are shared equitably amongst all Kenyans in all corners of Kenya. So these mechanisms are already in place. But again, I want to ask you, how can we be quarreling about 12 billion when KEMSA, 40 billion, Kimarwell, 20 billion, I don't know, Itare, 30 billion. How can we...
Actually, to answer your question, why are you quarreling? If somebody wants to have a quarrel with you, they will have one.
Over anything.
Oh, exactly.
Over a torn slipper.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that in any case, the Council of Governors made resolutions repeatedly to say to the Senate that, look, if honestly it is taking you a lot of time to agree on what this formula is, please allow us to proceed on the basis of the existing formula. We have resolved that over and over and transmitted it to the Senate. But what has happened in the Senate? The Senate is split at least 3 ways. A minimum of 3 ways, if not more. Maybe actually four segments or 4 factions within the Senate, which is making it very difficult for them to come to any sensible resolution. You remember already, in terms of party affiliations, the ODM and Jubilee. Then you recall, because of the fallout in Jubilee, the Jubilee obviously is split at least into 2 factions. So the so-called Team Kenya or Kieleweke, whatever, Tanga and Kieleweke or something like this. Then those counties who disagree with the formula, primarily counties from the coastal part of Kenya and the northeastern part of Kenya. So that we have those factions, and because of the 2022 politics, those factions, basically this whole debate about the formula has become a debate and a competition for 2022, so that you are seen as the one supporting this group of counties or the other group of counties. So unfortunately, it may not resolve with the speed in which we needed it to resolve.
Unfortunately,
because it
Governor,
has become...
it seems has become quite a sticky mess. And unfortunately, they say when 2 elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. The grass, in this case, turning out to be Kenyans as early as today. And it looks like that, the people who would depend on their salary for the last 3 months, those who would depend on healthcare going forward, those who would depend on other services, for example, that the counties would be able to offer, will not be able to access that because of this tiff that's going on at the moment. How then should that be resolved? Taking into consideration that the Kenyans on a large scale are the ones who are going to suffer this.
How should it resolve? I see at least 4 different avenues, and I think all of them must be pursued simultaneously. One solution is, frankly, for the president to step in and to tell his officials at the National Treasury, frankly, to follow the law and to style up and to stop hiding behind odd, innocuous arguments. Let's follow the law. I think that's one very direct way of resolution. That's one option. Option 2 has been created by the Council of Governors. Since these Treasury officials, controller of budget, since they are all saying that their hands are tied, then we have gone to court to untie their hands. So if they're genuine, they will come to court today and tomorrow once they are served, and they will record consent so that the court can untie their hands and we can proceed. That is option 2. Is also fast resolving and quick resolving, and that's an option available and is on the table, and that the Council of Governors is offering. Let's go that route. Option 3 is that the Senate itself must really figure out a way to put their factional differences aside so that they can either agree on the formula, or in the alternative, pass the CARA using the old formula, even as they continue to debate and seek consensus on the new formula. So I would say those are the 3 principal options available to Kenya today.
What I marvel at, even as we're coming to the end of this particular show, is how did the governors, how did the collective excellencies allow Senate to control this narrative and this debate? Instead of asking what has been done with the monies that has been allocated, instead of looking at the function of Senate and what it ought to do, and given what it is now doing, essentially endangering the lives of Kenyans, doing the complete opposite of what they're supposed to do, why have the governors allowed the Senate to control this narrative?
Look, I would say on that one, we could have done better. We must still do better as a Council of Governors. In our defense, Mr. Muga, we I was about to say hunted lot. I mean, we are under such attack in every corner. The war on corruption seems to only find governors. And if you are a governor, if your officer has stolen, then even you should be arrested. That seems to be the new norm. And we wonder, when all these, when people steal from KEMSA, we don't see the Minister for Health or the Vice President or Deputy President or the President being hauled to court. Nonetheless, we must do better, and we will do better. We also, I think, as a, not to be an agent provocateur, that is the work of Eric, but I think that this council, we made a strategic mistake from the very beginning, that the national government, the president in person, asked us that why do we continue with this adversarial relationship between the national government and the Council of Governors? Why can't we do detente? Now, being political realist, we thought, well, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Let us seek to discuss more than prosecute the issue in the court of public opinion. While we heeded that agreement, informal agreement. The national government and the Senate did not. So now we basically are playing catch up. We have sought to discuss in meetings. For example, during COVID, I think we have had 4 separate summit meetings. We have sought to discuss these things over and over in the summit meetings as a way of resolving without having to go and fight publicly. But unfortunately, we've come the worse off, and as a council, we have to reconsider whether we want to continue with this policy of detente.
Governor, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. I want you to speak to the people of Laikipia and other counties in the country and tell them when they're going to seek services today and they are not able to access those services, whom should they point a finger at?
I would say to all Kenyans that you will point a finger, first of all, at the Senate, because it is the Senate that has failed to agree on the basis of revenue allocation to counties. It is also the Senate that has refused our request to pass the allocation on the basis of the previous formula. You will also point a finger at the National Treasury and at the Controller of Budget, who have refused, in spite of a clear provision in the financial regulations at Regulation 134, in spite of a clear, in plain English, mechanism for releasing monies, they have refused to do so. You will point a finger at the Attorney General, who has offered them refuge in terms of a legal opinion. We, on our part as governors, we will endeavor to provide, as the communique says, a minimum level of health services, because we must endeavor to protect the lives of Kenyans. For example, in Laikipia, we will endeavor to have. So you may not, for example, public health. We may not be able to offer you public health services today, but we will ensure that there is a minimum level of health service available to Kenyans so that we don't jeopardize your lives. In the meantime, we will continue to seek resolution. We will engage with the Senate leadership. We will continue engaging with the National Treasury. We have engaged with the courts, with all these actors, with the idea of finding a solution. Thank you.
Asante sana, Governor, and we wish you a good day. And as you face the heat, we wish you all the best as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
God
Governor.
bless you.
Thank you.
Good morning. The conversation continues right here on this Spice FM. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice FM. Nyeri.
Hey, what am I seeing? What are we looking at here? Mombasa Road still quite clogged up this morning, trying to get into the CBD. Inbound, however, you'll have a jolly old time because you wouldn't have much traffic there. But of course, I'm assuming that most people are headed out in that direction. We'll see what it looks like in a short while. We know, guys, there's going to be some inconveniences with the expressway, but it's going to be there for some time. So I think we need to buckle up and get used to that, right? Yeah. All right, getting off of Thika Road as well today. All the way from NYS, all the way to Pangani today, traffic is very slow. It's a mishmash also on Mombasa Road between Sabaki and Mlolongo, and we expect this, guys, because of what we know is happening within Nyayo Stadium to Westlands. That's Uhuru Highway, and all that it encompasses is traffic, jam, and like I like to say, no butter at all. Not moving smoothly. We'll take a look in about half an hour and see how that has changed. Don't forget, you can get in touch. Spice FM KE, just in case you get stuck. Or CT can sing for you as you wait in traffic.
This is The Situation Room the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room,
after 8
the
o'clock.
only way to
This is
start.
Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Well, look, listening to Governor Nderitu Mureithi and giving the background of what they've gone through, they have not received a shilling from the Consolidated Fund for the last 3 months. So they have not been able actually to offer any services. Or even in the event where you're paying people a salary, but you're not able to finance their operations, what are you doing?
Zero work.
So yes, you're paying the garbage collectors, but the vehicles don't have fuel to go and collect the garbage.
You're not going anywhere.
So of what use is this? And then it brings in the question of what exactly is happening at the national level. Because we keep asking ourselves this question: what is at play here in the Senate? How can an issue take so long and there is no solution in sight? How can then this even escalate to the National Assembly, to the national government at the Treasury level and the controller of budget, and even over that advisory opinion by the Supreme Court and other existing pieces of legislation like the Public Finance Management Act and its regulations? You're still not able to send half of what was consumed last year to the counties.
The simple solution is to understand what began as a vigorous debate on the matter and a very informative one has now clearly become an issue that could best be described as a clear display of incompetence. So what we should be thinking of is how to recall these senators. Because here they are enjoying the benefits of our hard-earned money through our taxes, and yet something that is supposed to benefit the Mwananchi is actually being held ransom by them. People in this process who have clearly proven not to be people who are encouraging debate and understanding, but people who are actually becoming roadblocks, they should leave.
But also, I think, yes, we can talk about the Senate and the back and forth. And many times you've actually even said yourself, this healthy debate in the Senate is important.
It is.
Because it brings out issues. But the National Treasury has no debate.
No.
You have the
Stuck
money.
on one position.
This is it. Do you have a Supreme Court advisory opinion? Yes, you do. Do you have a PFM Act that has come from the Treasury? Yes, you do. Do you have regulations? Yes, you do. And then the Attorney General says, you see, these regulations constitutionally are not an act of Parliament. They are regulations. But why do you have regulations if they are not part of the law?
If we understand these regulations and we understand that they're actually meant to be there and to be enacted for the betterment of the citizens of this country, that isn't happening now. So are we then supposed to understand that what we're seeing is a display of incompetence of a magnitude that had hitherto not been seen? Because clearly speaking, the country is not benefiting from this dithering.
I don't think it's incompetence. I think they clearly know exactly what they're doing. And I have this feeling, just like the governor was speculating, my own speculation is there's a reason why the national government is not releasing funds right now.
There's a rat in the kitchen.
Yes.
There's
a rat in the kitchen. There's absolutely no way you can tell me that, in fact, looking at that advisory opinion by the Attorney General, you're like, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me that regulations are not part of a law.
Why do you have them then in the first place?
And then, yes, these regulations are actually called part of a law. They come in as pieces of legislation to support an act of Parliament.
Without them, you cannot action those laws.
Yes.
Yes.
So this whole debate, anyway, let's move to the next conversation. And before we do that, remind us today's proverb, Honorable C.T. Muga.
A man who pays respect to the great paves way for his own greatness.
Man who pays respect to the great
paves way for his or her
Greatness.
No, the man bit we have to remove. A
The
person,
person.
who pays respect to the great paves way
For their own.
their own greatness. Yes.
Oh, ye great Ndu.
Say it again.
Respect you this morning. We talked about singing the first stanza of the national anthem earlier when we were beginning the show.
You did. I
And
didn't.
and C.T. Muga, you volunteered. Oh, ye great C.T., that you were going to take us through the first stanza.
I actually volunteered to disagree with you, but O God of all creation,
Right.
bless this our land and nation.
Right.
Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders.
It's a very powerful prayer.
Oh, it's a massive one.
It's a powerful prayer.
Of
because-
earthquake proportions.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Because it puts the country on a certain path and tells God, deity, please watch over us, bless us. Let justice be our shield and defender. And let's focus on that particular one for this particular hour. Justice be our shield and defender. What does that mean? When you hear let justice be our shield and defender.
Well, it seems to me that it has to be an all-encompassing cover when you look at justice. And we tend to think of justice as just within the courts, for example. But what does it mean? That people be treated right, that people be treated with equality and equity, that people have access to then what would be theirs as citizens of this country, that people have the right not to be brutalized, for example, that people have the right to education, right to health, across board. So when it says be your shield and defender, be your cover and that which is going to hold you and make sure that you don't have to suffer anything. To me, that's what it means. Has it been happening, and is that really the case? Has this prayer been answered in Kenya time and time again with the things that we've been seeing? The soft belly of things that have been exposed over time shows to me that justice is actually not covering the people of this country.
You know, the thing, when you talk about justice, many people would think of going to court
There you
and
go.
finding justice
Exactly.
in court. But justice is in everything. Treat your fellow citizen in a just manner. Ensure there is justice in everything that you do as a citizen, to your fellow citizen, to everybody else around you. Ensure that you live in a way that adheres to the ideals of ensuring that there is justice. But let's talk about this with our guest this morning. And we are now joined by the Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit. He is the head of the Anglican Church of Kenya, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya. And we are also joined by Benson Shamala. He is the Country Director at International Justice Mission. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning and welcome to the Situation Room. I want to start with you, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit. Asante sana for speaking to us. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much for inviting me to share in this platform. I'm fine, and I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Justice be our shield and defender. What is your translation of this?
Yes, that my translation is first and foremost, those words are based on the Bible, which I teach and preach about. Justice is a very central theme in the entire Bible, and it has to go alongside with another term, fairness. So we should have even added justice and fairness should be our shield and defender. And justice completely depict that we have to treat each other justly. We have to be fair in everything that we do to one another. And justice is the access of what I am supposed to get in terms of my space and my right. Also bearing in mind that I also have to respect other people's spaces, and therefore acting to each other justly is being just in the correct mode of respecting one another and treating each other in a fair manner, in a way that everybody feels I'm justified. It's justified. So when we say it should be our shield and defender, it is a whole aspect of anything that protects my space, my right, my dignity, and anything that protects it justly, also limiting me from my excesses, because I can also be excess in the way I do things and step into other people's spaces. then justice has also to be applied to me. So it is a two-way traffic, in my understanding. And saying it is our shield, it means it is the one that protects us. If you read the Bible, Isaiah chapter 9, the prediction of the Son of God, that a son will be born, and his government will be at the shoulder, his world will be at the shoulder, and his government will last, because it will be administered through justice and fairness. It depicts that when a nation, when a community is acting justly, then everybody is protected. So the shield protects. And that's my interpretation of that phrase, justice be our shield and defender.
Your Grace, I want to take you back a little bit into history. And
Yes.
I want to look at some of the individuals who have held senior positions within the Anglican Church. My mind goes back to Archbishop Kuria, my mind goes back to Bishop Gitari, my mind goes back to Bishop Muge, Bishop Okulu. And one of the things that they were known for during the space of what we call the Second Liberation was the spirited fight they put up for the very thing you've just mentioned, justice. And they were at the forefront of it. It is something we do not see now. Please comment on this.
Yeah, indeed true. We know the church participated in what Kenya has popularly come to know as the Second Liberation, the clamor for multi-party democracy and politics in Kenya, so that the seemingly oppressive of the one-party rule, then the church came out to fight for that space alongside other communities. Even today, the church has not completely kept quiet, but you may remember that the terrain and the space is completely different. That time, if you go back to history, even the media itself and other avenues and civil society were all completely being crushed, and the only space that remained, that everybody was running and getting space, was the church, and the church pulpit was the only opening that was not completely shattered. But since multi-party democracy and the opening of a democratic space in terms of expression of speech, which currently is now being undermined again, everybody's voice became louder. And the church voice actually is still among those, but there are many, many other louder voices. Because there are political parties now that are speaking, there are public rallies that people are speaking, which were not existent in those days, or which the space was not presenting that day. I may also remind you that we haven't been quiet. You remember in the build-up to the 2016 election, we spoke very, very strongly against undermining institutions like AIBC, undermining the judiciary. We spoke about brutality, then especially in Nyanza region, with the Amnesty International bringing to the number of people who are killed. The church did not keep quiet. We raised the voices. And therefore, what I can say is that the church is still speaking, but the voices are so many out there, and the media attention sometimes is not no longer on the church and in the services in the church. And I still continue challenging, because those days, the media houses were stationed in the churches every Sunday. But now, the media houses are not in the churches, they are in the political rallies. So what the churches are preaching on a Sunday basis may not be heard, because what is heard louder is what is happening out in the political rally. So I still believe the voice of the church is not completely diminished. We may not be speaking as it was then, but the terrain and the opportunities are different. But I'm not saying we have to abrogate our role. Our role is still intact, and the church space is still there, speaking for the people of this country and the people of the world, because we have a duty and an opportunity to be able to make a contribution.
Your Grace, the Archbishop, the Second Liberation was, among other things, about individual freedoms. Right now, in this day and age, we are faced, in my mind, with the same problems. In fact, greater problems of a nature like the one which was faced during that period. Because, one, you have a situation where every day we are buffeted by injustices that which present itself as corruption in this country. And what it does, it ends up denying the common mwananchi the freedoms that he's supposed to enjoy. And people then seem to have, the only option they seem to think they have is to do things which are illegal. So it now brings in a moral issue. Now, if indeed the church hasn't been silent, why then is it that the space that was occupied the church has quietly been taken by the politicians and by the people who represent the worst possible moral issues that you can think of in this country?
I want to own up. I'm not denying that the church is not doing what it's supposed to do. I think we are not doing as much as we are supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But I want to say that this is a societal problem that we have to rethink even how we deal with ourselves at the family level. Because to me, I think the erosion of our moral standing in this country is starting with the way we have degraded the values, which should have been built from my childhood. And I'm not sure how many families have opportunities to speak with their children. We have left our children to the school, to the television, and to other sources of information, and today to the mobile phone, which is in their hands. Therefore, that opportunity of guidance and counseling that used to happen at the family level, now at the church level, in Sunday school, the kind of catechism that we used to do in the churches was very rigorous, that we used to have a whole year catechism before one is either baptized or confirmed, because that's where you build in Christian values and principles, teaching these new converts to be able to know what they are supposed to do. I think the world has just taken us by surprise, a kind of speed in which we see things happening, and we are moving towards an instant world where everything has to be instant. Even today, when a bishop goes to confirm, we may not have that time to ask how long has this catechism taken these people through the catechism curriculum, which was supposed to introduce the basics of Christianity and the principles. And therefore, as a society, we have lost a lot of moral ground, starting from what happens at our families, what happens in our teaching institution, what happens in our places of worship. I think we are all into these quick fix things, that I want something that I can easily get what I want. And now those shortcuts will not take us anywhere, and I think the foundations are tracking. My last two Sunday sermon has been based on Psalms 11 verse 3, when the foundations are being destroyed and are shaken, what will the righteous do? And I think this is a big question for us and for Kenyans. What are we doing? Because our foundations are shaking. Foundations in the church, at the family level, at societal level, in our schools. We have seen things happening that a lot of freedom is given to people without proper guidance, and the misuse of that freedom now results into individuals taking up things that they should not have taken up, which goes against our societal norms and values. So I think it's a bigger debate. We need to reevaluate ourselves. What are values? What values are we holding as a nation? Sure. What values are we teaching in the churches?
As we look at, as we hear some of these things, foundations crumbling and other voices that should lend themselves to this debate, the International Justice Mission in resident here in Kenya and headed by Benson Shamala. Benson, as we hear some of these things that His Grace has spoken about as the problems for what we see, so that we don't see justice being expended in this country, we don't see people being treated fairly. How is your voice being lended to this, to actually get some kind of action and not just words being spoken to these, foundations that we see essentially being crumbled?
Thank you, Ndu, and thank you, Spice FM, for having me. And it's great pleasure for me even to be with the Archbishop. It's a pleasure seeing you and having a discussion with you. Yes, the issue of justice is a very deep thing. And as our national anthem, as you rightly said, that let justice be our shield and defense. It means that it's supposed to be to everyone. But at my experience with the International Justice Mission, which is an organization that seeks justice for the people that have been deprived of their justice and have been hurt, especially by the police, which the police are supposed to safeguard the rights of the people. And we've represented several people, close over 300 people, who have either been falsely accused of something they did not do, or who are beaten up and injured, but the very people who are supposed to protect them, the police, or some who have lost their loved ones in the hands of the police. So again, the aspect of the foundation, I think the church plays a critical role, because previously matters to do with human rights and defending of human rights has been confined to civil societies. But again, as the Archbishop says, the church has a particular role to kind of fend for that. And because if you read the Bible all through, God is a God of justice. And even in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, he is telling us what we expect of us, that we need to walk right, we need to seek justice, we need to plead for the weak. So the church cannot be left out in aspect of defending and championing for the rights of the people, because again, these are the church. The church is not the building, but the church is the people. And so this month, as International Justice Mission, one of the critical things that we do globally, we have got like 27 offices worldwide, is we set a month, which is the month of September, to rally the church and the faithful and kind of to help them reawaken that particular desire to seek justice in their communities. It could be different aspects of injustice that is happening. So this year, we are so proud because we have seen several churches in Kenya here, close to 400 kind of joining International Justice Mission in this particular month to discuss matters to do with justice. We have got pastors who are preaching about issues of justice, also sensitizing the congregation on what do they need to do so that they can say no to injustice. Because again, justice and righteousness goes hand in hand. We can't have righteousness without justice, and we can't have justice without righteousness. So these two go hand in hand. And as an organization, we are eager to kind of not only rally government agencies to highlight some of the issues and the problems of injustice, to defend people who have been falsely accused, or those who have lost loved ones in the hands of the police, but also to speak to the church and say, you have a right, you have a responsibility as a church to speak about issues of injustice. And I'm so happy that Archbishop actually has been on the forefront talking about issues that affect Kenyans on injustice.
The goals that you've set for yourselves as an organization, in my opinion, are really lofty. But let me ask the question, how then do you determine that you have met your goals and that you have achieved success?
Thank you, Morgan. One of the things that we do, because we have like a mission that we want to rally a movement globally that will protect millions, 500 million, and rescue a million. That's a huge undertaking. So one of the things we realize that we cannot do that as International Justice Mission alone, but rather, if we can rally different churches and different actors and different corporates to say that, yeah, can we look at some of the injustices that are happening in various countries that we operate? And this is a movement. It's not just about an organization. This is a movement of rallying people to say we need to be sensitized on issues justice. For example, in the recent past, we've had a lot of police brutality in the course of the curfew during this COVID-19 regulation that people should not move during the night. And we've seen how the movement came in, and there was so many outcry there, people saying that what the police did was an excessive use of their force. And I'm happy also that the media is coming forward and highlighting some of those aspects. So it's not just about an organization, it's a movement that we can sensitize everyone to say, how can we be speaking about issues of justice? When we see an injustice happening, are we willing to speak about it? Like most of the instances, we've had instances where people have witnessed police beating up somebody. But when this case comes up in court, the very witnesses who saw with their eyes, they shy away from coming to testify in court. But again, we cannot change the society as an organization alone. But if we kind of rally movement, we rally the churches, we rally every other citizen to say, we need to say no to injustice. And when we say one, we need to speak out, because many times people fear that when I speak about police impunity and brutality, of course there are risks involved there, but then that fear cripples us, where we cannot speak about it, and injustice continues to happen. But we need to come forth and speak about it and be willing to go forth and even be able to testify wherever we need it, and speak out about those particular injustices. That's the only way we're going to bring protection. We're going to change our society so that it becomes a just society, as our national anthem says.
You mentioned something, Benson, and that is that you've seen a lot of rallying around, even aside from this particular month where you focus on this. Now, is this an answer to this call for this month, or is it a general change in attitude or an excitement that has been imputed in a lot of these churches and a lot of organizations to say that this is something that we cannot keep quiet about? Or is it just joining you in this particular campaign, or is it saying that, moving on, this has to change inherently?
Yeah, thank you, Lou, for that. What we have seen is that we are kind of a catalyst. So in chemistry, you see, like when we are mixing reaction, there's a catalyst that we put there to kind of speed up reactions. And so at JM, we see ourselves as a catalyst, whereby we meet and sensitize the churches and sensitize other agencies, civil societies, and other corporates to look at things in a different way. And I'm happy that the church is picking up this so that they run with it. Of course, as the International Justice Mission, our main focus is about police abuse of power and police brutality. But that's not the only injustices that are in our society. I'm so happy to even mention some of the churches that have picked up the issues of justice. There are some that have kind of come up with the ministries to reach out to the people in prison. There are some actually, like the Kayole Pepper Church, which has come together with the community, and we have got this movement of what we call justice centers in the community to handle issues and document issues of injustice and look for resolution. And the Kayole Pepper Church actually is now hosting a justice center within their compound, and people come there and talk about issues of injustice. Where there are cases, they come there and report. So this is a kind of a catalyzing effect where we want to reach out to various churches and kind of, so this month is just a sensitization where I say, can you look within ourselves and say, what injustices do we see as a church, and how can we rally people to do that? Because we all have something to do. We don't have to be a lawyer for you to seek justice. You don't have to be a social worker like what we do at the International Justice Mission to seek justice. But justice should be within our heart. Like when I see something that's wrong, I'm willing to speak about it, and not only speak about it, but to take action to rectify what's the wrong that I'm seeing. So yes, it's a movement, and we are seeing different churches picking up different issues within their community and rallying the members to do something about that.
You spoke about justice, and then you said also justice does not go without righteousness, or the other way around as well. Righteousness does not go without justice. We take a break now, and when we come back, we delve much also deeper into that, into what also the Archbishop alluded to in terms of justice and fairness within a community, because my focus personally would be on that. When people think of justice, they think of justice between citizens and those in authority. But there is justice within the community. And how then do we ensure that there is justice and better living and harmonious living within the community? We are speaking with Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, and Benson Shamala. He is the country director of the International Justice Mission. Is justice really our shield and defender? That is what we are asking ourselves this morning. You can also post your comment on our social media handles, Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. 8:30, time for a break to look at the weather and traffic, and then the conversation continues.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your... The weather with Spice.
Conditions in Nairobi. Currently cloudy conditions. It might warm up a little bit later. 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 13 today. In Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 16 degrees, going to a high of 24 and coming down to lows of 13. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 16. We will then see later highs of 25 and lows of 11. Eldoret is mostly sunny at 16 degrees, highs of 22 and lows of 12, with rainy conditions forecasted for later. It's partly cloudy in Kisumu, partly sunny in Kisumu at 22 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 15. Kakamega is mostly sunny at 19 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 14, and we'll have a wet afternoon there. Mombasa weather is mostly sunny this morning at 26 degrees, going to highs of 28 and down to lows of 23. Malindi is partly cloudy at 26, highs of 28 and lows of 24, and showers expected later. Let's take a look then quickly into Kampala, where it's partly cloudy at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam this morning is partly cloudy at 24. There will be a chance of rain later with highs of 31 and lows of 21. Looking into Joburg, where it's mostly sunny at 14, going to highs of 27. And finally, for now, in Lagos, showers continue at 28, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Okay, we still have a bumper-to-bumper situation on Mombasa Road today, trying to get out of the city. Well, this is what we expect, and it will be this way for some time. Also, Thika Road getting into the CBD slowly, but all right. Super Thika Highway in some parts, actually, people say they're airborne. From the 5th to Roasters. So that's looking good. Not too much of traffic there. All right, looking at other parts coming into the CBD, likely to see that Uhuru Highway will cause you a bit of a headache now. And that's in and outbound, but it should be fine for most parts. Okay, I did say we're going to look into Mombasa and Kisumu, and we will do that. Anything else jumping out at you, let us know. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. We want to keep it moving this Thursday morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
26 minutes.
94.4.
This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Nairobi 94.4, Nyeri 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nakuru 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, Malindi 97.7, and also this show broadcasts worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We are having a conversation with the Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit of the Anglican Church of Kenya, as well as Benson Shamala of the International Justice Mission. He's a country director. Is justice our shield and defender? And before we went into the break, I was basically telling Mr. Shamala that, when you talk about justice, very many people hear the word justice, they think of judiciary, going to court, or seeking justice from an oppressive regime, seeking justice from having encountered injustice from those in authority. But there's also the aspect of justice within the community, those that you live with, justice amongst family members. You see very many instances where we talk about people mistreating their loved ones, people mistreating their neighbors, people being completely uncouth about their neighbors, their co-workers, their children, their relatives. What's the space of justice in this, Benson? I was combining Benson and Shamala.
Thanks, Eric. I think justice cuts across each and every sphere of our life. And as we talk about justice, we need to start within even ourselves, and how do we act justly and fairly, and how do we use the authority and the power that we have? Because each one of us have got some responsibility and have power. Do we use that one to abuse others or deny others what is rightfully theirs? Even at the home, when you have got our house managers, how do we treat them? Because it starts from there. And then, of course, we're being governed by a system, a government. And so as it escalates, we want to see like those that have been given power by the Constitution to protect the people, how are they utilizing that? And so we have a responsibility not only to look within ourselves, but also to say, how can we hold those people who have got the authority and have been given that constitutional authority to protect us as citizens? How are they utilizing that? And so that's when then now we escalate it to the government agencies that have been given that responsibility. And the police, you will agree with me, that have got a lot of power. So they have the power to arrest you. They have the power to use violence of the gun. And so they need to be restrained in that as they do that within the Constitution, so that they're not abusing that power, especially to the weak and the people who cannot be able to fend for themselves. And as a civil society, we came together and just see, can we monitor some of the happenings and the misconduct by the police? And in a Missing Voice website, which we developed in 2017, we've seen a lot of stories and documented several stories of people who have been killed or made to disappear in the hands of the police. This year alone, by August of this year that passed, we had 115 people who have either been killed or have disappeared in the hands of the police. And that's really a huge number. And from 2017 to date, we have documented like 727 people who have been killed. And then there's a huge number, so that we can say we need to speak about this. We need to talk about that, because we can't just wish it away. When people that have been given a responsibility to safeguard us turn that particular ability and power to oppress the very people that are supposed to protect. So we need to talk about that. And yes, I know it starts at small level, at individual level, at a family level, at a community level, but it also rises up to a national level where we're saying, can we have this particular discussion? Where are we having several people? Like in 2013, IPOA, which is Independent Policing Oversight Authority, did a survey and actually looked at files of cases of people who have been charged with felony cases. These are serious cases, and they perused through, and they discovered that 64% of the people that had been charged with a felony, these are very serious offenders, they did not have the evidence to be charged in the first place. I mean, think about that, like 6 out of 10 people that are being charged and they are languishing in remand, they don't need to be there. It's like somebody went ahead and arrested you and fabricated evidence on you to suffer. So that's something that we need to talk about. And of course, IPOA also did a survey in 2019, and the number has not changed that much. So we need to talk about these issues, and as we talk about justice.
Your Grace, coming back to you now and looking at some of these things, I mean, just an in-between road between what Benson has been saying and what you said previously, and looking forward. Oftentimes in this room, we ask ourselves the question, how did we get here? To get to a point whereby citizens of a country don't feel safe, and when I say safe, in terms of what can be provided for them in terms of their basic and daily needs. But then asking the question, in how should the conversation actually be going? Who should be spoken to? When we talk about the police as a system, these are made up of individuals. When we look at government as a whole, again, made up of individuals. So where should the conversation be steering in terms of where we should be going vis-a-vis how we got here?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think this is a very, very important discussion and question you are asking and raising. I think I need to say we are all in it and we are all to blame, and we need all to engage. Because looking at the issues of injustices, it doesn't just happen between the government and the citizen. It also happens between neighbors. It can happen between even church members, when there is a small dispute on anything, there is always a tendency of those who feel they have more power, and wield more power to oppress those who are powerless. And it's the whole question of what can we do as a society to address it. In my where I sit, I think we have a prong approach. One is we need to constantly engage through teaching and preaching, in our case in the church. The word of God is rich. We have a greater and a better tool, which is the Bible and the scriptures. It gives us a teaching on how to deal with ourselves and society and how to become fair. The other one is now to get into action, because it is not enough to speak about it. It's not enough to teach about it. We need to get down to action. And I think if all of us get down to action without just pointing an accusing finger, we do what I'm supposed to do, then I will be presenting what I'm doing as an example. Then other people can have a role model, something to emulate, something to say, now we have an opportunity to see a difference because so-and-so is making a difference. And I think that's the approach we have been trying in the church, because injustice is not just when there is a brutality. Injustice is also when services are denied, when poor children cannot access to school, when opportunities are not available, or when employment can only be given skewedly because I belong to this region, or I have a godfather somewhere who can be able to connect me. And we have grown as a nation, as a country of connection. I'm looking for a day when can merit count, when somebody walks to an office with his papers or her papers, that she can be judged, not because of her name and where she's coming from or he's coming from, but from the merit of his papers, and they can get equal access even without the so-called godfathers. And I think we have a whole complete societal problem. We need to approach it from that point of view. Who is addressing orphans in this country, their plight, their education, their shelter, who is providing for that? And I think this is where we need to wake up, all of us, engage, not just speak about it. It's easier to speak about it, but to do something about it, to engage completely and take action. The moment we all take action, so that when I see something wrong, when I see a child being denied opportunity, I provide the opportunity that child is needing. When I see somebody hungry, I am there to provide for the food. But provision is still not enough. We need now to step up, to go to policy, because where we are finding it difficult in this country is when the policy framers and the policy makers are not taking into consideration the plight of the poor. Most of our policies are pro the rich and pro those who are already having it. You see people changing laws and wanting to change laws just to protect their spaces and their empires. But we are looking for a day that policymakers can look for policies that are going to be pro-poor policies, policies for the oppressed, policies for the less fortunate in society, so that the policy, as we frame them, will safeguard the interests of everybody and will guarantee fairness, as I said earlier, will guarantee now there is justice. We need to look at how Parliament, for example, enact laws. We are seeing now what's happening in the Senate, in the division of revenue of this country. The debate is one man, one vote, one shilling. But if we go by only that as a criteria, who is cooking the cake? Who is baking the cake that we are coming to share? Even some of the regions that seem less populated probably may even be cooking a bigger cake. Look, for example, the whole area that Safo National Park covers. There are no people. But the tourism industry and the wildlife is cooking a better cake for this country. And if we are only going to give resources based on the population, Taita Taveta and the counties around Safo National Park may not have the population to get the resources. But they have a bigger cake they are even cooking for the nation. So this is the fairness we are talking about. How do we come up with policies and develop programs that look across board and see Kenyans as Kenyans, so that we eliminate the debate that we are debating from a regional point of view, that I'm speaking for my region, I'm speaking for my people, I'm speaking for my community. And these are the things that are helping us and aiding us to oppress those who feel maybe their numbers are lower, or maybe their economic power is not as big, and we can continue to exacerbate all this marginalization which result into injustices in many forms. So looking at the whole question of injustice and fairness, how do we look at across board and look at things that can be done? So let us approach by speaking about it, but also by doing something about it, taking action, but also looking at policy and policy frameworks, because if we don't look at all those areas, then injustice will continue.
Your Grace, I actually want to appreciate and acknowledge the fact that the leadership of the church is recently coming out, more often than we were seeing previously, to speak about these matters of national importance. And in fact, even now, just the partnership that you're having with the Benson Shimala and his organization is something. And you now talk about, let's approach it at policy level. What is the best course of action that you, for example, as clergy, would be in a position to lead, so that we can have a position where policy is changed and even the policymakers are thinking with justice in mind with whatever they are doing?
I think we need, as I said, to do some practical aspects. Let me take you back to history. When the country is struggling for constitutional reforms, as that period where we were talking about the second liberation, before the current constitution was enacted, the church went ahead to produce in the civil society what was called Ufungamano Constitutional Draft, Constitution Draft of Kenya. When the church brought an alternative, that's when everybody got serious and said, yes, I think there is somebody really thinking. So what we need to do as church and as civil society groups, people who are addressing these issues of fairness and justice, is to draft also alternative policy framework as write-ups that can be taken to Parliament, that we can challenge the parliamentarians as they make bills, so that they have an alternative to look at and to see. If we are able to look at that and lobby at that particular ground, the church also need to be alert when some of these debates are happening in Parliament, so that we make a contribution. Now our constitution has opened up the space for what they call public participation. And I think the policy framework of the current constitution had a mind that people need to participate, be it at the county level, even when they are making budgets, when they are making whatever they are doing, there need to be public participation. What we have not seen is the practical side of that, because policymakers still want to go back to the old format where policies are made at boardrooms. They go to a hotel somewhere and they come and implement and say we have a policy, or they can select a few people and say there was public participation. What is required at this point in time is for the Kenyan populace to be alert that the Constitution allows them to participate in everything that the national government or the county government want to do that affects them. And public participation is enshrined in the Constitution, and we all take that space. And what I can say as church is we have to mobilize communities to know that if there is something that is being passed, either by a county assembly or national government, that did not have the attention of the populace of this country through public participation, then the public need to come out and say no, because we have not participated, we have not contributed to it. And if we do that, then we can be able to open up the space and use the constitution that we already have in terms of how does it inform policy, so that we participate in policy formulation and making. And if we can be able to do that, then we shall be able to look at ourselves. I think we also need to look into the whole area of police and their engagement. We changed the Kenya police from a police force to a police service. And there's a big difference between a force and a service. A force is to enforce things, a service is to serve. And now their slogan, utumishi kwa wote, now more amplified, that they are servants of the people. They are not to brutalize people, but they are to serve people because they have an obligation. That is what the Constitution defines them to be, a police service that serve every Kenyan equally and ensure that fairness is happening in every space.
Is the church working on this only as the Christian church, or do they involve other religious organizations?
Actually, we have, like yesterday, we spent the whole day with a group of what we call interreligious council, including the Muslims, just trying to articulate what's happening in the nation and what can be the contribution of the church, looking at the temperatures building up politically and in all fronts. So we don't want to walk alone as church. We are working with other religious organizations, but we are also having our parachurch institutions and those civil society groups that we share the same vision. And therefore, we team up and we have forum and opportunities for us and to gather together and say, this is what we need to champion and this is what is needed in this country. So the conversation I'm talking about is not just on a separate conversation. We are conversing around other religious leaders of all faiths, Muslims and Christians and Hindus alike. The Interreligious Council of Kenya is very active on this, and we have a secretariat there that brings us together. We have other parachurch organizations, KCCB of the Catholic and NCCK and the Evangelical Alliance. So we have a consortium that we can be able to look at these things in a more wider way. And then when we get something solid, then we all take to our churches and our places of worship to popularize.
Your Grace, the Archbishop, how will you be able to tell that your initiatives are actually successful? What can one see? What is one expected to see in order to understand that these initiatives are actually working as intended?
I think before we do what they normally call evaluations to see whether something has worked or not, I think what we need to listen more is, are there voices being raised? Are there people talking about it? I think the other area we need to test what I'm talking about, do we have an alternative, say, document like the one we had, the Fungamano Constitution draft, that can say, yes, this is something we have solid. We can also test by saying, what are people engaging? What is the Anglican Church engaging? If you come to my church, we have the Anglican Development Services, which have a peace and justice desk, but also have a desk on HIV/AIDS, on health areas, because those are services if people are denied. We are supporting orphans and vulnerable children in this country in a big way. We have a food security program so that people are food secure at the community level. So when you look at that across board, they all contribute to fairness and justice and making people access to resources, access to opportunities, and the church participate in this. Sometimes we may not be seen because we don't amplify, or we may not have a way of broadcasting or putting in roadshows to publicize. But a lot is happening. If you hear what Shamala said, the church in Kayole have a justice center. The church in Korogosho have a justice center based in the Catholic Church compound. In Lavington Vineyard Church, we have a center for children survivors of brutalities. So the churches are doing one or two things here and there. We may not be publicizing it or putting it in a roadshow for people to see, but a lot is happening. And if you can come on the ground to test and to see, you will see traits of what is happening in terms of providing examples of what can happen and what can be done.
Benson, beyond September, then what happens when this awareness has been built up and put through? What happens beyond this month? Because things will happen. COVID came about and we saw heightened levels of police brutality because of curfew and things like that, whereby justice was not being served to the people of Kenya. Likelihood that more things will come along whereby, these things will be highlighted. What happens beyond this?
Thank you, Ndu. One of the things that, of course, we will continue talking about these things, but this only is the beginning of a conversation. And we want to start having this conversation and continue having them, because we can't just have 1 month talk about it and then after September and then it comes to an end. So then there are several things that will come out. But we want to have the church and other religious bodies to come forth and say, when something happens, we want to talk about it. And I like what the Archbishop talked about, even at policy level. Like, how are we enacting policies? Which policies should we put in place so that it can protect and seems to protect everyone, not only those who have got money, but everyone, even those who are living in poverty. But also just go beyond that. Like, there are some policies that have already been enacted. Let me give an example. In 2017, there was a law that was passed, which is called the National Corona Service Act. this came up as a realization that police officers, when there is a death within their hands, they're the same people who are judged to investigate. And so as you may understand, or you can imagine, they will, of course, protect their own. And so there was a need to have an independent kind of agency to have what we call the National Coroner General, who has an office that whenever there is a death, then the responsibility of investigating that particular death, it does not fall in the police, but rather falls in the hands of the Coroner General. And this is a good law, and it was passed and it was signed as a law, but it has not been implemented. And so we're asking, why is this law not being implemented? Yet it went through the parliament, the president gave an assent to it, and it will help resolve some of the mysteries of death that happens within the police service. So we need to talk and kind of say, why is it not being implemented? Is it the issue of budget? And why can the government allocate a budget so that we can have the establishment of the National Coroner Service with fully fledged equipment? Because it also protects the police from the trauma of carrying dead bodies, and they've not been trained in that. So we want to have a different kind of
Mr. Shamala, the things you mentioned, one could argue boil down to corruption that doesn't seem to be diminish but increase. Now, if the church were at the very center of reprisal or attack, verbal attack even in the papers by individuals who are known to be corrupt, then I would argue, now this is my measure, I would argue that the church is speaking out in a manner that is actually getting results. There is a gentleman, not known to many, it's called Nicola Grattan. He's actually a public prosecutor in a place called Calabria in Italy. This man has more security than even the Prime Minister. And the reason is because he is known as a mafia prosecutor. He does things that nobody else wants to do, and people who have preceded him have died. I'm not saying that people should go the matter way and Christians should die. I'm simply saying that when the people who conduct the deeds that we do not approve of in this country continue doing so, then the things that we are doing are not having the effect that they should.
And you're correct. The church should be the voice and speak out, because we have seen a lot of corruption or even bad things happening, injustices happening. And we as the church, and I'm not excluding myself from there, I'm part of the church, and because I'm a Christian, we have kept quiet and looked to the other side, or sometimes even appraised and appreciated people who may have stolen, and because they have come in and they've given the big tithe or the big money, and we appreciate that. So we need to say, no, this is wrong, and speak about it, and not only speak about it, but continually speaking about those issues that affect us, that are not right. Because the church, I believe, is the voice of God. And even in the Old Testament, the prophet will speak and approach the king and say, this is wrong. I remember the prophet Nathan approaching King David and say, whatever you have done is wrong, when David had actually went about taking somebody's wife and killing the person. And so the church should be in that particular position and feel empowered to say, we will speak about issues that are not right, because that's our voice, that's our responsibility, and God expects us to do that. Rather than just kind of feel like we need to prepare people to go to heaven. Yes, that's given, but also speak of here on earth. Can we act rightly? Can we act fairly? Can we act justly?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Those are very good words that you've actually concluded our conversation with this morning. Benson Shamala, he is a country director at the International Justice Mission. We're also joined by Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya. Gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. May justice indeed be our shield and defender, and we wish you a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, what are we looking at now? Still moving it a bit slowly on Mombasa Road, but it should be out without a problem. Okay, so there have been a number of accidents with cyclists on the roads, and we've seen some fatal yesterday and today. So we just need to be really careful, guys, and put on that protective gear when you are there. Okay, so there's a lot of pressure on Mombasa Road this morning. You can use the road that leads to behind the inland container depot. And now looking at the southern bypass as well. Everybody has to be careful because there's not enough demarcation on the road in terms of where you can or cannot go. So please be careful when using that road. And I think Kenha is listening and hopefully something will be done about that. There's still a mess in terms of traffic between Sabaki and Mlolongo this morning. So Mombasa Road is giving up those terrible vibes right now. We just have to be patient. Into the CBD, same situation. You'll get where you're going in good time, guys. Mombasa inside the city looks good. Inside the town looks good. In and out, as well as Kisumu. Not much traffic this morning. Spice of MKE. Just in case anything changes, let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only
2.5
way to
minutes
start
after
your
9
day.
o'clock. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, today's proverb.
A man
You were still gonna sing today.
who pays respect to the... Sorry, let me start again. A person who pays respect to the great paves way for their own greatness.
Yep. Okay. So let's come back to this conversation that is the big news and the big event of the day. Not really event, but the big happening of the day, which is that across the country, when people go to seek medical services today, they're not going to get the full 9 yards, right? They will not get, for example, county hospitals are not going to be able to admit patients from today because the governors are saying we have no money. We do not have money. We have not been able to pay our workers for the last 3 months. Our workers have already been, starting their own industrial action and saying, we haven't been paid, so we're going to down our tools. And this is all because of, one, the standoff in the Senate, and two, because of the standoff in the national government. The National Treasury could release at least 50% of the money that was earmarked for the counties.
Like they're obligated to release it.
Yeah. And this is according to the Public Finance Management Act with some regulations that came into effect in 2015. There's also the advisory opinion by the Supreme Court and all this. But in terms of the national government, the Attorney General has given an opinion, which therefore binds the officers in the national government and says, you see, the way it looks, this piece of regulation is not an act of parliament as envisaged in the Constitution. The Constitution says money shall come out of the consolidated fund with the authority of an act of parliament. This is just a regulation. It will not be, practically speaking, an act of parliament.
Eric, how is an advisory binding?
Which one? Like this one by the Attorney General?
Yes, how is it binding?
Hey, the Attorney General is the chief legal advisor
Yes,
of the
he
government.
is, but he said, follow this path. Must you follow it?
Yes.
Yes.
If you don't follow
It's
that
his
path,
opinion. It's not the law.
Well, he's advising for the country.
I am trying to say that we are then suggesting, and I ask this question, that when the Attorney General gives an opinion, it is the law.
when the Attorney General looks and officially gives an opinion to a public officer or any state entity, basically the Attorney General has told you, you know what, legally, this is the way to go. Now, if you go against that and you are exposed to any sort of litigation, you're on your own. Listen to, for example, what we've been seeing in the Senate in the issue of the MES. What have we seen the Attorney General and the former Attorney General going to Parliament to say? Well, they did not seek our opinion.
Especially in the contracting.
That particular issue is iffy.
And when they sought our opinion, they were coming to seek our opinion after the fact.
Iffy.
So all those things, you can actually hold that officer accountable.
Yes, but it isn't the law.
And you say that the Attorney General, the legal advisor of the government,
had this opinion.
This is what the legal advisor of the government said. This is the position.
Eric, they were not giving the direction from what I understand. They were suggesting a direction. Or do I understand that when the Attorney General gives an opinion, the suggestion is actually direction that must be followed?
Yes.
Which means that it is law. So the Attorney General is in a position to actually draft the law as we go along.
No. The Attorney General is basically applying the law and advising state agencies. He's not advising you.
Then he's amending it.
Yeah, he's advising
He's advising within the law.
This is the interpretation of the law because he is a chief legal officer in the government. It's just like in an organization. In this organization, Standard Group, we have a legal department.
We do.
That legal department, its opinion is very strong and powerful.
Eric, which arm of government has the mandate to actually interpret the law for us in this country?
The arm of government is the judiciary.
Yeah.
But within the executive, there is an office created by law to advise.
Yes, advise.
On the law.
You know, here, I think we're going to be picking, we're going to be splitting hairs over this one, so I will not... I recede. I take a backseat on this one.
Whether you can look at the advice of the Attorney General and say, okay,
and look at it as advice,
this is what I'm going to
or
do.
Look at it as a firm direction that I have no option
So the Attorney
but to
General
follow.
gives you an opinion and says, you know what, do not sign a contract this way. You look at it and say, okay, Sawa, I was required to seek the opinion of the Attorney General. I've sought it, but I'm going to sign a contract and seek a loan on behalf of this State Department, and this will be paid by the people of Kenya.
And it was paid.
And then the people of Kenya, you as an officer will say, but I was doing it in the interest of the public.
You know, that thing wouldn't have been an issue. I'm calling it a thing because it was. If the issue around the suitability of the equipment, the cost of the equipment, the whole discussion around it, there were so many issues arising just from that process, so that the Attorney General's opinion was just one other issue.
Yeah, he comes at the contractual side of things. Okay, anyway, the point is, today, across the country, no admissions to hospitals. People who are of a political mind will look at it and say, the Council of Governors is failing, or Paranya is the worst chair of the Council of Governors. Remember when you had Isaac Ruto? Remember when you had Peter Munya? Remember when we had, right? But bottom line is, if you actually walked out of here and you're involved in an accident, the first port of call always is in a public facility. And if you required admission to that public facility, you would not get it.
You would not get it.
You would not get service in a hospital. If you are involved in an accident, you may sit here and say, you know me, I don't even go to public hospitals anyway.
Oh, no.
Everybody ends up in a public hospital.
That's where you'll be taken.
At some point.
You may even be transferred, but that is where you'll go first.
Yeah. So we basically are saying that the people of Kenya are on their own today, practically, and in all manner of speaking. You're on your own. But then we have got to ask the questions. Why are we where we are?
And who is responsible for putting us in this very unfortunate position?
And really ask the question, what on earth is actually going on? Because what we've been fed over the last couple of days, over the last 9, 10, 11 weeks coming out of the Senate, for them not to have reached an agreement, for us hearing today that it was the last resort when now counties will essentially shut down, to me, there is more than meets the eye. And honestly, I do believe there's rats in the kitchen and it's smelling to high heavens. There's something going on. There is something going on, and it is making the people at this point suffer.
Did you say rat in the kitchen?
I did.
Was that not a song by UB40?
There's a rat in the kitchen. What are we gonna do? City, what's going on with you today?
No wonder you're Morgan today.
Morgan. What's going on?
C.T. Morgan.
Well, Mr. Shamala and I will rectify this.
There's something going on. There is something going on. It doesn't make sense. And you either look, because now what happens is that, like you said, people are going to go into hospital. They will not be able to get services. Anything that would work on a county level, for example, sweeping of the streets, collecting your parking, this, that, the other thing, all those things will not happen. They will not happen. It's not today. It's not going to happen.
So who's to blame?
If we listen to what the council
If we
of governors
pick
say,
from the list, number one, of course, is the governor who has instructed the workers to go home. Of course, they have a responsibility. Number
Treasury,
two
who
is the
says-
Treasury, who says we cannot release money, so money has not gone to the county. Responsibility. Senate, who have not passed the county allocation of revenue bill, and who have also not told the government you can use last year's bill, which is an option that they have, who also have a responsibility. There is the controller of budget, who has not signed anything.
Who is actually supposed to be
allowing the
person who has
money
the power
to go
sort of like, yes.
into the counties. Some sort of responsibility. And now, of course, the Attorney General, who has given an opinion and said, look, we don't have any law that supports us to get money out of the consolidated fund and take it to the accounts of these counties. We don't have any law. We need an act of parliament. And that act of parliament is called the CARA, the County Allocation of Revenue Act, or the Division of Revenue Act. Those two laws are the ones that will allow us to send money to the counties. Without that,
we can't do anything.
no, we can't do anything. The previous law has expired. So now, who bears the brunt of this?
All those
also,
Kenya
remember
bear the
that
brunt of
as
it.
the governor of Laikipia told us, let's start from the president as well as the head of government. He could actually call the attorney general, he could call the treasury, and this is an independent office here, but he can also just ask
And
the
literally
controller
say,
of
get your
budget,
act
come,
together.
how can we sort this thing out? What do we need to do to ensure that money goes to the people so that the people receive services that they require? So, President, Treasury, Control of Budget, Treasury, yeah, Attorney General, Senate, Council of Governors. 5. Or is there someone else? Let us know, 0719-012-600. Who's to blame for Kenyans who are going to face death today?
That's what it is. Because you may say, okay, maybe I want to be careful about that, but that's what's going to happen. That is absolutely what's going to happen.
Who
Things
has
are not
put
going
Kenyans'
to operate
lives at risk?
Remember when health workers have gone on strike, Kenyans have died.
Yep.
This is worse.
Yep.
It's not a question of people going on strike. The offices.
It's absolutely no service. You come in and you're told, the only thing I can do is, well, I cannot do much of what I'm supposed to do. Maybe things like lab services withdrawn.
And that's just hospitals, right? Are we looking at other services in the county as
Yeah.
well? So you go and you're trying to get your business permit certificate paid, this, that, the other thing. It's not going to happen because, nobody's going to be there. Or even if they will be there, they will not offer these services.
You could use
to you.
e-citizen for that one.
Oh, you could, but I mean, if you're going to make query such things in an office, do one to the other.
One
you
of
won't be able
the
to.
services that are basically not in need is revenue collection. Those ones are termed essential services.
Essential services.
And health?
Held by
Those
the
ones
enemy.
those ones are very much. Those officers are working. Go and park in down and see.
And see if somebody
your
won't
car
come
will
and
not be
get you
plumped.
away.
Those ones.
Does anything become more essential than health, really?
Imagine. So if you look at the statement yesterday by Governor Alfred Mutua himself, who issued instructions according to the county secretary and head of public service in Machakos County, due to the nature of their mandate, the following functions shall remain fully operational in Machakos County. Number 1, revenue collection, fully operational. Number 2, health and emergency services, county image, water and irrigation, sanitation and solid waste management, county inspectorate, street lighting services, and county treasury. However, as we've seen from all other governors, what they're saying is there are very many of our services that we have to withdraw. So there are many services that you'll want to see. For example, even garbage collection. If like we said earlier, if the workers are, going to work, but what do they need? They need the vehicles, and those vehicles will need fuel.
The tools for trade.
To fuel these vehicles, you need money. There's no money, so there's no fuel in the vehicles. So therefore, even if we come to collect garbage, what do we do with it? Carry it on our backs.
Where are we taking it? Even if you were to go sweep the streets
Yep.
you're not going to be paid anyway. Even if you were being paid, then it's not happening.
Alafu nini sasa? So many services are going to be withdrawn. But the one that is completely directly life-threatening is this one, health. Because when you're going to seek health services, you're basically, your life is in danger because you don't even know. I don't know what I'm just feeling for. It's the doctor who will determine what for means.
You know what is
Nasikia tu hivyo.
You know what is really of interest here is how it is that the perspective from which all these decisions should be made seems to have been completely ignored. How do all these things benefit the Mwananchi?
It doesn't come into consideration. You see, this is the thing when mommy and daddy are fighting, unfortunately, the kids don't come into consideration. And that's the sad part, that nobody was thinking at that point where we're saying we're coming to loggerheads, but nobody's thinking about what will happen. Something like this, which would essentially cripple the whole country. When it just one aspect, when it comes to health, it was never thought about.
You know,
These
actually, what is
consequences were not
happening here is
considered
you're
at all.
weaponizing the people.
Yes, you're
Because
using them.
by withdrawing these services, you want the people to get angry, you want the people to actually feel
and
pain.
they will get angry.
You're weaponizing them, and then you're choosing, all right, so there.
Which is why I asked
Point
the
a
question,
finger.
was this then done? Was it the last resort, actually the last resort in this whole fight? Or was it done to elicit a reaction? Are you sacrificing the people at some point to then say, now, when they suffer and there's uproar, somebody's bound to answer or do something about
conspiracy
Let's take a
theories
break,
have a field
City.
day here, but yes, we'll look at it after.
And then we come into the conspiratorial side of things. But who's to blame for this withdrawal of services by county governments? 0719-012-600. Would love for you to speak to us. 17 minutes after 9.
The weather with
Mostly
Spice.
cloudy in Nairobi at 18. We'll go to highs of 27 today. In Nyeri, highs of 24. Partly cloudy conditions, mostly sunny at the moment at 18. Nakuru is sunny at 18 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 11. Eldoret will see some rains later with highs of 22 and lows of 12. It'll be sunny in Kisumu for most parts of the day, highs of 29 and lows of 19. Kakamega, mostly sunny at the moment. Rains expected later with highs of 27 and lows of 14. It's also going to be a wet afternoon in Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Malindi will experience some rain as well, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Out into Kampala, where it's mostly sunny, 22 degrees. It'll go to a high of 28 and come down to a low of 18. Showers expected in Dar es Salaam later with highs of 31 and lows of 22. Joburg is getting warmer and warmer by the minute. Highs of 27 and lows of 13 today, and mostly sunny conditions throughout. It still continues to rain in Lagos at 28 degrees. That'll be the high for today, coming down to a low of 23. London is partly cloudy at 14, going to highs of 22, where in Beijing it's mostly sunny, going to highs of 27, and New York is going to highs of 26 with only cloudy conditions later on.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You place this blame?
I wouldn't place blame. I would look at the facts and I would ask myself, what are the facts of this particular issue? Or at least, if we're to talk of facts, what do I have that has been presented to me that may constitute facts?
All right.
All right.
So from the information that you have so far, what do you deduce?
Let's start with the Senate, because this entire discussion seemed to have begun with the Senate. The Senate, in my mind, engaged themselves and the Kenyan public in an exercise that we had never seen before, trying to determine the best way forward of how to divide the monies that are supposed to go to the counties in an equitable manner. Right? That I understand. First attempt, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, up to 9. All right? Now, at that point, up to that point, I figured this is a healthy debate. But then I started looking at it and asking myself, something else ought to have kicked in, because this thing seems to be delaying the services that need to be rendered to the public. And my layman's understanding was that there is some provision within the laws of this country that enables the counties to draw a certain amount, up to 50% of what was in the previous budget, to carry on the activities. I even thought at some point it was happening. It clearly wasn't. Now, where we are at now, I remember, just note, I've left the drama of who came in, who said what. Then the county governments come in and say, we are now in September. The financial year began in June.
Yeah.
Now, these many months down the line, because we haven't received this money, we are unable to meet the obligations that we have. So what options do we have before us? And they choose the option of telling their people, go home, maintaining what they call basic services. So to answer your question, what do I see? I see a Senate that has failed in its duties to look after the interests of the citizens of this country. That's what I see. I see a county government that has decided to play hardball and to share the blame that has been directed at them for the longest time with other agencies within the government, with the Senate, the Office of the Controller of Budgets, the AGs, the Treasury, because all these agencies are supposed to be involved in determining and ensuring that they get the money. And that's what they've done. But as the governor of Laikipia mentioned to us, they have not put to an end the discussions they've been having with the government. It's still going on. But right now they say it's untenable. I find this a little spurious for this reason. If we've had cases where people have not been paid for months and they've eventually been paid, what's the difference now? The difference is you're not certain you're going to get money. Now, what certainty have we had in the past that you're going to get money that have enabled them to continue these people in their employment? Because it isn't as though if you send them home, you're not going to pay them a salary. You will eventually pay them a salary. So why not negotiate with them to continue working? Why not that option? Or are they telling us that they have chosen that option and it did not seem tenable?
That's what I'm saying. It seems as if it was a decision that was taken to kind of stick it to somebody, whereby then you see the entire nation up in uproar. You're not likely to ignore such a situation. That's why I was saying, yes, the way you're saying, CT, that it could have been a conversation that was had. Instead of us to tell as governors, instead of them to say to everybody, okay, well, you know what, we're going to shut down the operations of the county, which seems to me it's the easiest route to take. A conversation could have been had. All right, even as we continue this conversation, because it's been said, they're not going to give up, right? They're going to keep talking. Could it have been that we said, okay, keep working, something is going to be done about it? But that's why I'm saying it seems that there is more to this, because then you say we're going to shut down the operations. We're not going to have a discussion with you as workers. We're not going to have a discussion with the different entities that make up the county. We are going to say we are going to shut down operations. It's more a message that is being sent, if you ask me. It's more a message that's being said, well, okay, you're not going to listen to us. You're not going to fund us as you so rightly should. then we are not going to operate. And when
But
you're
how
ready
would they
to do
operate
something
anyway
about
without
it-
money?
How have they been
Actually,
operating
it
since
isn't
June?
as though they don't have money.
How have they been
Absolutely and
operating?
completely.
It's not that they don't have absolute money. Yes, they have some money that they're raising, but you see, every county has its own capacity to raise internal revenue.
Oh, they do.
Right?
They do.
So there are those like Nairobi, for example, which would be able to raise a lot more, but then they also have employed a lot more people. So if you're just talking about payment of salaries and how much money is sent to
and what
just
percentage of the money that they get it actually takes.
goes,
Yes.
If you just talk about now the internally raised revenue, all of it going into paying salaries, then what else are you left to do? Because as we say, payment of salary is one thing, but the other things that need to happen. If you're telling people to go to hospital, they need to come there and find medicine. They need to find working hospital. If Kenya Power today started, disconnecting power to all these hospitals because they haven't paid their bills, and why have they been unable to pay their bills? They don't have money. You see, the bottom line is,
there's no money.
if there is no money, if this 316 billion shillings has not gone to the counties, the only amount of money that the counties are able to raise is just the local revenue.
And how
Look
much
at
of
what
that
COVID
do
has
they
done.
raise? You see what percentage of it? But most significantly, if you're talking about no money, then maybe we should ask the question, does the government actually have this money?
The national government?
Yes.
This 316 billion
Yes, we
shillings.
must
is
ask
it
this question.
Does the consolidated fund have any money?
It's still government. Do they have money?
Does it have
Because
any
this is
money?
really the question that we should be asking. And let me ask a further question. If they don't have 316, how much do they have?
Tuongee.
Yes. Yes. You can pay salaries in installment.
And
Look,
actually, we are not even talking about the 316.
No,
at a go.
no,
It's half of that.
yes. And even if you don't have half, what do you have? All I'm trying to say is this. When you look at that budget, it's not as though that budget is used on that same day that you receive it. No.
Yep.
It's a budget for a year.
Yep. So first of all, we even said disbursed 158 billion to the counties.
Yes.
For now, as we deal with. That would at least be able to run the counties for 6 months. We're talking about 3 months already that.
Eric, even if you say
That's what could have
holds.
elicited the reaction that you're getting from the governors, though, because you could then, just as we are saying, that governors or county bosses could have the discussion with, service operators and say, okay, let's just continue. The same way, then, Treasury could have this conversation and say, okay, yes,
Guys.
law aside, okay, guys,
The truth
this
of
is
the
how
matter
much
is-
we have. Let's start with this one.
Let's see
At
what we
least
can do with this.
Move on with this while we try to figure out the rest.
Yes.
The conversation on the other side doesn't seem to have happened either.
Because the national government is collecting money on a daily basis.
There you go. Is collecting money. There is something that can be done. So it seems to me that the loggerheads that we are seeing is just, not just.
You get the
but
impression
has
it's contrived.
there you go.
The national government, how much does it have? It has money. The national government operations are not grinding to a
They're
halt.
not broke.
Have you heard anybody in the public service
I
who's
think
employed by the
my
national
view on the
government?
government having money, you know well. I
There's
repeat
money.
it. I repeat it here every day. There
So
is
it's
money.
not an issue of there's no money.
There is money.
Yeah. It's not an issue of there is no money because other things would have ground to a halt and you would have seen evidence of such.
In some sense, when I listen to the argument by the governors, I tend to agree with them in terms of, all right, have you received any money? No, we haven't received. We haven't received a shilling since the first day of July 2020. We are now 3 months down the road. If you haven't received a shilling, and then this is the money that you're supposed to be using to run the
To run your
operations
affairs, yes.
of what are you going to do? All right. And if you sit back and you look at the kind of nonchalance that you're receiving from the national government, from the Senate, then you're like, these guys they're not serious. They're just playing Russian roulette. The Attorney General writes to the Council of Governors and says, the law as it is not a law really that can really support the disbursement of funds. The Treasury says, you see now, because of what the AG has said, now I can't
do
you
anything.
I cannot give you any money. The Senate is, no. We must argue and argue. We have reached consensus. No, there's no consensus. We have reached consensus. No, there's no consensus. A meeting is held in State House, Nairobi, between the president, the leader of ODM, the leadership of the Senate, the leadership of the Council of Governors. And they're talking about, all right, so to unlock this stalemate, let's promise something down the road, like 50 billion shillings next year, should there be rain. Right? Should there be rain next year, I'll give you a bag of potatoes.
Yes.
But for now, can you just accept
Keep on
what I'm telling you?
Just soak the dry maize.
And it has not addressed today's problem. There's a problem today.
But Eric, think about this for a single second and consider. even as this discussion is taking place, remember these senators preside over a certain political sphere in each of these 47 counties. Okay. Have you heard of them going out without their salary? No. Have you heard of anything that has interfered with their day-to-day?
Absolutely no.
No. And these are people who took an oath. They took an oath. These officers, people take oaths to safeguard the welfare of the people.
Yep.
How really are they safeguarding the welfare of these people right now?
It's not.
Because this thing is in their hands. It's not in anybody else's hands.
It's not. It isn't.
That is why, when we were having this discussion earlier, I was of the view, perhaps they should consider the reality that they can't do this job and step down.
I like what the Standard has done today. In the editorial by the Standard today says, county shutdown is a symptom of leadership deficit in Kenya. And it doesn't spare anyone. It starts from the president, the deputy president, the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, former vice president Kalonzo Musyoka, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, because they're leaders of parties that have representation in the Senate. We also go into the leadership of the Senate, starting with the speaker, into the other leaders in the Senate. We go into the leadership of the Council of Governors, starting with the chairman and to all the governors. All of this, just because they're sitting there and none of their day-to-day lives are really impacted, they can just keep kicking the can down the road and politicize this issue and
Wait
say
and
this
see
is
when
about
it
Team
affects
Kenya.
Wait and see when it affects them directly.
And it should affect them
Should.
directly. That's the point where we should be getting, where it starts, where if you do not pass this particular law, then from the next time the budget of the legislature is actually attached to the Division of Revenue Bill and the County Allocation of Revenue Bill. If these two are not passed, then the legislature cannot get money from to operate if we get there.
And the electorate needed to actually open their eyes, as in, not that they were not open, but open them so that you can see with clarity. The people who claim to have your interests at heart and whose interests they really have at heart. You cannot have a situation like this, that with every meeting they have, we are actually back to the drawing board, the same thing all over and over, and they cannot find a solution to this problem. It makes me even ask, really, what was the problem?
Is there a problem?
Is there a problem in the first place? You want to ask that? Is that where this all started from?
But you have to ask that question, really.
You really do. You really do, because it doesn't make sense. 13 weeks running now, 13 weeks, and you couldn't have come up with a solution that's going to actually help you?
Not 13 weeks. 1.5 years.
Sure,
18 months.
Yeah, sure. But this debate that we've been talking about, White Smoke Tuesday, nothing happens. Tuesday, another one, nothing happens.
Jokes.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? So essentially, then I would have to agree with what you're saying, CT. That means that then you're unable to do your job.
You know, these guys
you're unable to do your job. You can't do it.
Not only that,
you can't do
given that they're receiving a salary, they qualify to be referred to as freeloaders. Because here you are, you go to this august house where you're supposed to discuss things of import that are supposed to impact positively the lives of Kenyans. And with every passing day, what you've done is you've consigned Kenyans to a certain level of poverty and squalor that they had not bargained for. That's not what they want.
And sure death.
Yes. Now death is being guaranteed.
So here
sure
you are.
death.
So here you are. You
fall
have this
sick
debate.
today, my friend, and your life is in danger. You will die. It's not that you might die. No. You will die.
Guarantee.
They
don't face the same problem. They don't even have these problems.
No, it's not an issue. That's
no.
What I'm saying. It's not an issue.
All these people who haven't been paid salaries in the counties, all these people, you know, you're saying they do not know what to do with their families on a daily basis. They're putting up with this for the 2.5 months. Right now, they don't know what to do. And you still think it is okay to keep debating this thing ad infinitum, just, keep tossing it up and down, up and down, up and down.
Jokers.
You cannot ask for a better display of incapacity than this one.
They're showing you, and it's about time that folks believe exactly what it is that.
But you're being told. We're being told exactly how we are viewed and how we
believe
see
it.
Yes.
They've been showing you the middle finger for so long. You've just been assuming that you can't see. Oh no, it's actually not the middle finger. That's a pinky. Absolutely not. These guys. Who's to blame? Let's actually name personality. Who's to blame here and offices for what is here basically being guaranteed as sure death? If you need hospital services today in any part of the Republic of Kenya and you need to go to a public hospital, you will not be admitted. You're likely not to get services because there's no money. So who's to blame for that? 0719-012-600. Let's take a look at traffic, and then we'll pick your calls all the way up to the end of the show.
All right, looking much better in most parts of the city now. I think most of the early morning traffic has gone now. People have reached where they're going. Not much drama. So far, so good. Still being asked to take precaution on the southern bypass. There's a lorry that has stalled there this morning, and you can't really see because there are no demarcation lanes on the road, right? So you want to be very, very careful, and hopefully something will be done about that as we continue to shout about it. We're still going to have a problem in industrial area, at least for the next couple of days, until that road work is completed. So approach with caution and plan yourself in advance so that you know how long you might need to spend in that particular area. Good? Good. Anything else pops up at you, let us know. Spice FMKE on Twitter.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
All right, so let's go straight to the phone lines at 23 minutes to 10 o'clock. Who's to blame for this nonsense? Mohammed.
Good morning.
In Kwale. Good morning.
I'm calling from Kwale County, Kinango Sub-County, in a village called Mwakigembe.
Mwakigembe? Ama
Yes,
Mwakijembe?
Mwakijembe.
Aha.
Kama una jembe utachukua kijembe.
Basi. Hapo basi.
Mimi nachangia kuhusu hii mada ya leo. Inaruhusiwa Kiswahili au lazima tuongee Kiingereza?
Inaruhusiwa ndugu.
Hoja lugha ya taifa hiyo.
Hii ni lugha ya taifa.
Anyway, gentleman and the lady there. Sangine anakuwa generic na hiyo kizungu, utafikiri Queen Elizabeth sijui ni relative wake. Anyway, hiyo sio issue, mwambie punguze. Lakini huyu City original
kabisa,
anaongea kizungu najua original, lakini huyu madam mimi nafikiria Queen Elizabeth pengine ni nyanyake. Punguza hiyo madam, punguza, kuwa original, sio generic. Anyway,
Mohamed tuambie
kuhusu hii issue ya leo. Wajua kuna last time ulitoa misali moja mzuri nimeipenda. However the makalio are in a hurry, they will always remain behind.
Yep.
That is our mindset. Our leaders, we Kenyans, we are in a hurry, but we will always be back. We are the
makalio.
Yes, we are makalio tu. Hata tukaenda mbio vipi tutabaki kwa nyuma tu. We are good in talking, we are good in organizing, we are good in planning, we are very good in everything. Lakini katika implementation, kubaki kwa makalio tu.
What is the solution?
Mama wa kublame. Solution?
Yeah.
We change our mindset yetu, tubadilishe attitude. That's the only way out. Hakuna kazi nyingine kubwa.
Tutoke nyuma
we have the best constitution in the world. What is keeping us not moving forward? We are always behind. Kama makalio tu. Akili zetu ziko kwa makalio. Fikra zetu za kimakalio. The only solution we change our mindset. Sio kutoka head of state paka mimi mwananchi wa kawaida. Yes, that is the only way out. Lakini mambo blame game, senators, governors, nani, kwaju, ndimu, hiyo. Tunafurahishana na tunachekeshana.
Very good points.
Hiyo ni mindset tu na attitude, tubadilishe tutasonga mbele. Kina nchi kama kina Singapore walikuwa na mindset wako wapi? Na sisi tulikuwa better than them. Malaysia walikuja wakisoma hapa Kenya Institute of Administration hapa Kabete. They used to come to learn how to administer things. Where are they now? And we were teaching them. In the 70s, hapa 70s, nakumbuka I was in Kabete. I used to see them. And where are they now? Sisi ni hiyo tu. However, in a hurry we are, tabaki kwa nyuma tu.
Mohamed, thank you
kwa
very
sababu
much.
ya attitude na mindset. Sawa, mimi natakia siku njema.
Pia wewe.
Madam punguza, madam kuwa original, sio generic.
Yake ni original.
Thank you very much.
Hapana.
Yake
Kuwa
original.
kama nani?
Wasalimie watu wa Kijembe hapo.
Sawa.
Asante. Sami in Magarini, good morning.
Yes, good morning, guys.
How are you doing?
Good morning, Sami.
Fine, thanks. I'm quite fine. Yes, are you hearing me?
We hear you.
Yeah. First of all, I should actually congratulate or do for what she has just said, that there is more than meets the eye. And I say this so because we have having this issue of sharing revenue since the Jubilee came into power.
Yep.
And we have never had any quarrel or any controversial issue as we are having now. And this actually, there is something that is pushing. And I have always said that the BBI issue is what is pushing this all we're witnessing now. Because there is this clause, 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. So that if we agree with this formula, then it will be started in the BBI so that people will be lowered to vote for BBI. And so at the same time, these two people will have actually killed one bird with one stone. On the other hand, the issues of giving revenue resources to other people, and on the other side is giving position to another person.
Good points. Maurice Inumoja, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to make a contribution.
Yes, what's your view on this?
My view, I just have a feeling like there is somebody somewhere who's just sitting on these funds, and they're just playing delaying tactics, and they're just withholding these funds, and these funds are just somewhere doing something with somebody, and it's a game. You know, this is Kenya, and they're just the senators, they know about it. They're just delaying just to make sure that this guy reaps the best out of what he has invested in something.
What do you think this game is?
Somebody has just taken these funds and invested in something, and maybe he's waiting for he or she is waiting for a return, maybe in a month's time or 3 weeks time. Maybe those funds are just somewhere. You know, this is Kenya, and the Senate, those guys in the Senate, they know. So they're just being played. They're just being told, you play the delaying tactic until this fund matures, then we shall release. Because if you see, there is a clause that allows the government, the national government, to give 50% of what the revenue. But so far nothing has been done, and the president knows about it. So I think there is just a game being played somewhere. Yes.
Maurice, are you on Twitter?
Yes.
Are you at Bromo Kitabu?
Yes, I'm Bromo.
Yes, because we have also seen your comment on Twitter saying the same thing. I have a feeling someone is deliberately holding those funds, and maybe they have invested in something, waiting for the returns, and then they bring back our cash. Conspiratorial, big time. But thank you very much for your opinion. Asante, Maurice.
Okay. Asante.
0719-012-600 or Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are seeking your opinion. So today, if you go to hospital, any public facility, well, apart from the level 6s, this is Kenyatta and Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Which other level 6 do we have? Well, yeah, we have now the Udhaya Hospital, which is a branch of Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Everywhere else you go,
nothing.
From local clinic to dispensary to public level 5, you will not get the services that you require. Mukoya in Thika, good morning.
Good morning to all.
How are you, Mukoya?
Fine. Very fine. Thank you. My contribution is that we are the people to be blamed, because these people, these leaders, our leaders have been going for benchmarking in Israel, in various countries outside, but we have not been questioning them what they have been doing. Others here, they are going for agriculture benchmarking in Israel, but they have never developed Kenya. The medical now, it is a problem. The healthy, the nation's health status is very unfortunate.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are the people to be blamed.
We are the ones to blame.
Yes, we the people, because the Constitution gives us the opportunity, everything. If we start with the preamble, it starts with we Kenyans. We are the ones who are to be blamed
Asante sana
because of not implementing the Constitution. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank
Mkoya.
you.
Oscar Ingong.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. This COVID
Oh,
thing, but I'm glad tuko sawa.
Yeah.
It's good. Good to hear you.
So, Dijo Mambo,
Fiti.
Dijo need to show me where you do those shots. Now that people have been talking of shots za watu wengine, hata sisi pia tuwe na zetu.
Basi hapo
Anaitwa CT wa mashati.
Morgan.
Bwana hawa watu sijui leo walipumua hewa gani? Sijui wameniamkia. Sijui.
You're the one who started singing in the morning. How do we help you?
Usijali mwalimu, tuko na wewe.
Yes.
So mine is I want to pick from where I haven't looked at the papers, but I've heard Eric talking about the standard.
Yeah, the editorial.
I think, yes, the editorial. I think that's exactly they've hit the nail on the head. The reason why I say that, in all these shenanigans being thrown out at the public, there is no one who is out of the box in terms of who is to blame. All the leadership in this country, be it the president, the head of the ruling party, the head of the quote-unquote opposition, and any other person, I think. But at the end of it all, as citizens of this country, I think we have ourselves to blame. Because the genesis of the leadership that we have, from whichever side you look at it, we are the ones who put them there. Just like the previous caller has said, we have the power to choose the people who have capability. Yes, people may falter at one point, but at least we should try our best not to look at people from the ethnic point of view. You know, not to consider how much money they have given us at the point of casting our votes, but to try and see among ourselves who are the people who can move our aspirations forward. So we have failed as a country. The things that are bedeviling our country right now are reflections of the kind of values that we hold as individuals. So yes, we may blame all these people. At the end of it, the buck stops with us as citizens, that we have failed. And this, we are reaping the fruits of our
own actions.
Decisions. Yes.
Tuko nyuma kama makalio.
Tumeshaambiwa na mpwani mwenzetu yule bwana.
Asante. Thank you very much, Oscar. Zachary in Nakuru.
Oh, good morning, guys.
Good morning, Baba Waithera.
Hey, is everyone okay, including Warimado? Today here he is like, he wants to sing. He is happy. And I liken his voice to this of our great singer, Mr. Ray Charles.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
City, Georgia, go.
Yeah, Georgia. Georgia in my mind. And, you know, he's got
Touché.
all of this, Mr. Ruiz, who sang that it's a wonderful out, I see, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's like my kind of music. Now, you guys were talking about a very sensitive issue, and it's good that you are discussing. But then I would say this, yeah? I'm asking myself, when is my well-being in Kenya not going to be attached to politics? Because do you see the hurabaru that is going around this money, the issue of money sharing?
Yeah.
Mr. Eric, and even Mwalimu Adro there, and our sister there, do from our West African friends, will know that it is because of politics that some people are suffering, like me, you, and everybody else is going to suffer. Okay.
Yep.
And therefore, I'm looking at this. Yeah. Well, I may suggest this. Yeah. Whether I come from an opposition area, as a citizen, I deserve to be secured by the police, by the army, by everybody. Yeah. Because that one is a national issue that doesn't need debate. Yeah. I would want also to see that whether Mr. X and Mr. Y are not seeing each other eye to eye, that my money, that is the service that I get from the government because of the tax that I pay, it should not be attached in any how
to their relationship.
To their relationship. That is the point. Because Mr. Eric, you are going to see that this is a show of might. That I've got this group, they are supporting Mr. Y. Then the other group is supporting Mr. X, who is for the now proposed formula, okay? And in the end, we are the Nyasi, or like our brother there, said, that we shall remain behind, yeah?
Yep.
But this should not be the case. Me, as long as I'm, like now I'm taking my tea, yeah? Through this tea, I have paid my tax, is it? I'm going to travel somewhere. By the way, I'm going to receive a certain check that I have. That's why I sound happy, okay? So, you can hear even the tone is strong, yeah?
Brother, you are sounding good.
Yeah, so I'm going to correct it. And I'm going to use the matatu, or probably my taxi, or even my car, yeah? So, whichever way, I'm going to pay tax, yeah?
Yep.
Then, to get this money back, why should it be hitched or maybe attached to the relations between Mwalimu Eric, Mwalimu Wadro there, and Eric. You see?
True. So
good point. I kind of feel that, it should be that. And you are going to have a nice day.
We are.
Yes. We will, Zachary.
All the best as well.
Oh, thank you.
Kesho tuongeleshe cheki kiiva.
Asante.
Simon in Nyeri.
Good morning.
Good morning, Simon.
You have a very interesting topic today. I'm a first contributor.
Karibu sana to the show. And please switch off your radio. I think it's confusing in the background.
Yes, and sorry for that. Now, everyone I'm talking to is wondering, including myself, whether we are hearing this deafening silence about the truth we are not being told about this matter. And my main wonder is, we have three categories of leaders: political leaders, corporate leaders, and community leaders.
Yep.
And all these leaders are involved in politics now. We are talking about medicines lacking in most of the hospitals and dispensaries. And I'm wondering whether these leaders are actually seized on these problems, basic problems facing Kenyans today. And I actually wonder whether national leaders have actually taken time to go back into history and particularly assess the causes of the French Revolution in the medieval times. Because most the chronology of the things that we have gone through now attests to some of the problems that caused that particular revolution. Now, the person in the village actually feels, including myself, feels very bad when we see our taxes being misappropriated. And I am sure that element was articulated by the Laikipia governor when he was contributing. When we hear about 23 billion getting lost in some phantom dam somewhere, and nobody pursues that, then there is this little meager amount of money, which I do not think it's a loss or it's an anticipated loss. And we keep haggling about it.
Only
when Kenyans are
12.5
suffering.
billion.
When Kenyans are suffering on the ground and in the midst of a pandemic, actually the normal Kenyans wonder whether he has a government and whether he's valued in this nation or not. And whether he's being treated just like a donkey to be ferrying goods to the market. And inside that market, there are only thieves there to steal his goods.
True. Simon, thank you very much for that contribution and, of course, your thoughts and sharing your thoughts as well.
Now, let me finish with this. The largest number of legislators we have in this country, at least those who have some semblance of having gone to school, the majority, are the members of parliament. Can you note the deafening silence with those members of parliament now? At the point of the highest need that the Kenyan have.
And they're all quiet.
They are all quiet.
Good point. Asante sana, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Simon. And keep listening.
And I hope you'll pass those questions to them.
We will.
Asante
sana. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. I mean, this is a painful thing. If you just visualize what the impact of the move by the Council of Governors, and which is at the end of a move by the government, national leaders at all other levels, you're basically saying, go to hospital today, you will not get services.
You know, you might as well have said, don't get sick.
Don't get sick.
We know very well that won't happen.
Come on. It's really annoying.
But, you know, there's a perspective here, Eric. You know, we talked about maybe the government doesn't have money. So if that were the case, and I were to speculate, then I would venture to speculate that it's a holding action. Let's delay this thing until we cobble up some money.
Until we get enough money. But then there are other things that are considered important and they're still happening. It's basically just the thinking of it's counties. Forget about them. Forgetting that counties means people.
Not only that, it means the population of this country. Because we're all in counties. All of us.
You're thinking as long as I am able to move from point A to point B, it doesn't matter.
Those guys can wait.
I'm good. And we are all good. Remind us today's proverb as we conclude.
A person who pays respect to the great paves way for their own greatness.
Kuna vile. They don't respect us.
And they cannot then be truly great.
Cannot be great. Do we have great leaders in this country? Some, but this is the time when you're going to see greatness in our leadership.
Actually, the opportunity has presented itself for those who indeed want to have that mantle of being great to actually live up to the requirements of it.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this Thursday morning. Join us again tomorrow, Friday, from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now until about 7 o'clock. It's uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then the adults in the room will be here from 7 to 10. Join us again tomorrow. C.T. Muga, Morgan, Nduoko, and Eric Latif signing off. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.